Hello, Orville Nation. Hello, Tubian323, Nanette, Peggy, Skipper, Purple Lady, DJ's all over the place. Hello, Mountains, and everybody else who is in here. Captain Trek, Big Al, Rambling. Hi, guys. How are you? Thanks for joining us. We have an amazing panel, and we're still missing one of our stars for the night.
If I can just say the star.
The brightest star.
Yep.
That's me.
Let me introduce our amazing panel. Oh, and there she is. There she is. I'm going to give her a sec. Wait, we're going to bring her in. We're going to bring her in.
All right.
Let's introduce everybody at first. In the top right over here, we got Jeff Franklin.
Hello.
Hello,
how are
Jeff.
You, PJ?
Thanks for coming. Jeff, do you have a channel?
Thank you for inviting me. I don't have a YouTube channel, but I do work part-time for a podcasting company called TalkShoe. I'm a user support representative, and I do a show on there twice a week. It's for the company itself, and we help people that are having issues with the company, or the service rather, and they come on, and we try to answer any questions that they have about TalkShoe or podcasting in general.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Is that something you want to share? That link to that podcast, or?
Sure, I can do that.
You can put it in the private chat. I'll post it.
All right, very good.
Great. Down here to over there, we got Troy.
Oh, me.
Troy Pacelli from the Troy Pacelli channel. How are you, Troy?
Just fine.
Thanks for joining us.
I don't think I've ever heard you say that on air, so I'm sorry to correct you publicly. Please. But Pacelli. I go with the Italian pronunciation.
I forgive me. I think I've heard.
No, I absolutely do. It's you can't know. Look, let's face it. You're only seeing it in print until you hear someone say it. You know, that's perfectly fair.
Well, that sounds very nice, Pacelli. So, Troy, tell us about the Troy Pacelli channel.
Yeah. So, if I can drop the link if you'd like.
Please,
I would love it if people wanted to subscribe to me, because I am thinking about wanting to do this. Now that I got the time on my hands, do it a little bit more. But I do some ranty type reaction videos. In fact, was it Jeff or was it someone else in the stream last week said they really liked that I used Stan Lee as my banner for my page. You kids, don't make me come down there. But that
wasn't me.
Oh, okay. That's kind of what my channel is, and I do some reactionary videos, mostly to some of the smaller other YouTubes. But more importantly, I consider myself one of the sidekicks for Professor Geek's channel. You might want to check him out sometime. He's a great YouTuber as well. Big supporter of the Orville Nation and whatnot.
I will put up Professor Geek channel link as well during our chat. And DJ Odyssey, welcome, DJ. He's one of our star panelists who started this whole Doctor Who debate thing. How are you, DJ?
I'm doing good, because I have to do it here because nobody wants to listen to me rant about it on my channel.
We definitely want to listen. Can you tell us about the DJ Odyssey channel?
Well, let's see, the old odd one. Let me see. I do lots of just discussions, a lot of live streams where I just let a lot of people up and we just discuss everything that's going on within reason, because you know how YouTube is these days. Can't even talk about breakfast anymore, but
apparently not.
Yeah, your stream got canceled talking about breakfast, right, today?
That's we were talking about breakfast. Next thing I know, we were gone. Didn't like it.
Okay, so I want to start the drum roll for the true star of the night, as we were all in agreement. Katie is the true star of the night.
No, I'm not.
She is she is the Starfleet meteorologist and so much more. Our good friend Katie Nicola. Welcome, Katie.
You guys hype me so much, but you guys are the best.
Because we like you so much.
Oh, shucks.
I can like her this week. She's not wearing that garb.
Well, I went with 10, so,
You
Hello, Katie.
technically came right from work, didn't you?
Yeah, we're launching a new graphics system on Monday in 2 days. And we had the dress rehearsal, and it, technical difficulties.
I streamed out because I was promoting this stream. I put out a note, hey, everybody, come join us, but we're running late. Meteorologist Katie is having a meteorological emergency.
Oh, see, now if there were, I would just be podcasting from the road chasing tornadoes with you guys.
There you go. There you go.
I'm sure that's going to happen at some point.
Awesome.
On a Woman Power Wednesday, it's going to happen.
That could be really awesome.
Wow. But we gotta make sure that happens on your channel when you were like your stream.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be great.
So you guys all saw the other debate we did. Most of you did, and we thought we probably were juggling, and it was great to have everybody who was there. But we thought we probably had a lot of people, and it was also Katie's first stream. And I didn't think
it was chaos.
Give you props for your first stream. You did good with a ton of us.
Thanks.
You did
You
amazing.
did a lot of juggling. You did
Hopefully,
great.
Hopefully people didn't realize the chaos that was going on my end.
I have no idea how you managed it. I would not have been able to. And you said that was your first time. I'm like, this girl is a pro.
Oh, nah. I'm
Okay,
rusty.
you did
That's
really
all I
well.
am. Yeah.
We
Hey.
figured we needed to give another shot where the room was maybe a little less crowded and Katie was freed up from her obligations, so we could have a more relaxed and a better debate.
Exactly.
So-
a debate rather than a friendly conversation, which it turned out to be.
So
Let's still keep the friendly part though.
Sure. It'll be a friendly debate.
There you go.
yes,
like
passionate but friendly.
We'll just agree to disagree on certain points.
Yes, I believe it is
There you go,
important
DJ.
for that to be the base level.
So
And I
before we
guess-
start, let me just say hi to everybody who's in here. Peggy, Purple Lady, Eris, Big Mac, Adega, Tyrone Beard, Mr. Lundell. By the way, guys, everybody, if you don't know this, Axonar Comics, Trey from Axonar Comics is Max World Entertainment now.
Oh, gotcha.
Sweet.
I knew
So
the name
just-
was changing. I just wasn't clear what
Yeah.
it was changing to.
So Trey's Max World Entertainment, just so everybody, just pass that around so everybody knows. Lady Q, Star Trek Nitpickers. Who else? Mr. Lundell and Jim Henry and Skipper and Big Al and everybody, Tubian and everybody who's in there, Thomas Connolly. Thanks everybody for joining us. All righty. So because our community tends to lean one way on this issue, and that's a reality. I would say 70% probably are more on DJ's and Troy's side. I want to know. To start the debate. I want to know what Jeff and Katie find special and what do you guys really appreciate about the Jodie Whittaker doctor? Let's start there.
You want to go, Jeff?
All right, go ahead, Katie.
Oh, sweet. So yeah, what I like about it is, they're trying new things. They're trying to take different directions and see if it works and see if it doesn't. And hopefully they're learning from that. But I like that they're experimenting and they're trying. And I also really do enjoy Jodie. I think she just has a bubbly nature that, of course, I can relate to because yeah. But I think she definitely has the enthusiasm and the natural essence of the doctor. And I think that's so key when having Doctor Who is having a doctor who just enjoys life. And I think Jodie absolutely does. It makes me smile when I see it.
You are far more bubbly though.
Oh, I might be
Jeff.
a little bit too bubbly.
Well, I'm somewhere in between. And let me go back a little bit because Obviously, we've had different actors in the role throughout the years. The only one of the modern series that I instantly found really good was Eccleston. Right from the beginning, his word, run. Yes, that was great. And he had me hooked right away. It took me a full series for me to get used to Tennant. It took me a full series to get used to Matt Smith. And it took me a full series to get used to Capaldi. It took me a full season to get used to Whittaker as well. That first series, the series 11 that she was in, wasn't all that great. I didn't think it was well written. There wasn't much personality that came out from Whittaker herself. But I started to see that in the second series. She was more confident in the role. She started to establish her own doctor, if you will, in series 12. I know there was a lot of comparisons where she just took the best aspects of Tennant and Smith and kind of melded them together. Well, she started, I think, to carve out her own thing in series 12. And I started to enjoy her and started to enjoy the series more. I think it was better written as well in series 12. So it's taken some time, but every doctor, I think, in the modern era, except for Eccleston, has had to have that adjustment period.
Okay. What about you, Troy? What did you like, or actually, what is your opinion about the Jodie Whittaker doctor in general?
So I think that the easiest way for me to address it is to build off of something that Katie said. She said, and if I misspeak, Katie, if I misrepresent you, just stop me, because I don't intend to do that. But you were saying that you liked that they were trying something new. Absolutely agree with that. That's the point of agreement. My concern is, if you're going to try something new, be a little bit more conservative about it. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know, I feel like they tried too much new, and it hasn't worked out very well for them. As evidenced by the numbers. I'm not even talking about my own opinion. I'm just talking about the numbers. They did too much new, and not, in my opinion, well enough. So everything that was said about Jodie positive, I agree. She's bubbly. She's great. She does embody elements of previous doctors very well. Kind of has started to, on her own emoting, tried to bring out her own sense of who the doctor is. Unfortunately, the problem isn't with her. The problem is with the writing and the directing and what she's been given to work with. I think she's got a millstone around her neck, trying to forge her own doctorhood, if I can coin a phrase, and that's a huge problem. And again, my biggest problem is not the stereotypical, well, you just don't want to see a woman as the doctor. I have no issue with a woman as a doctor. I had no issue with a woman as the mistress. My problem is canon, and the scrapping of canon and throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's my take.
PJ,
let me address the elephant in the room.
is it a big elephant?
Oh yeah. I'm not going to be very popular with a few after this, but I'm one of them that thinks the doctor should have never been a female.
Okay.
What are the reasons?
I'm old school. The doctor's always been male. There was female Time Lords, which were called Time Ladies, that set their own apart. They could have easily, if they wanted to try it, had another series, another show, helmed with a female Time Lord. And it's been done before with shows. If people remember back to the 70s, we had a little thing called The $6 Million Man and The Bionic Woman.
Right.
2 separate shows.
two separate
One
networks.
male lead, one was a female lead. Could have easily been done that way. But we have the sect these days that has to push for inclusiveness when there's no need for it, when they could just simply have a show for them. And if it does good, hey, kind of proves them right. But lately, it kind of showing that we were kind of right about the whole thing. When you look at the ratings and everything else over these last 2 years, they've tanked. When you start off at 11 million and you end up at 4.65 million with the season finale of this past season, you know it's not working.
You know, you brought up an interesting point, DJ. We've done work with Lindsay Wagner, the Bionic Woman, before, and I've heard her talk a lot about how she came into that role, and I think that is a perfect example of how she split off from the original idea and became, in many ways, even slightly more popular, in some areas. And if you go to a Comic-Con right now, she is killing it at the con. Like, there's a lot of people waiting to talk to her still, 40 years later. So Katie, what about you? Would you have wanted to see Jodie as a female Time Lord, but not the Doctor?
See, the way I think about it, just because I'm recently out of college, is you have intramural leagues. You have the guys' league, the girls' league, and the co-ed league. And the reason that they have co-ed leagues is because you want to mix it up. You want to play with girls and guys. And I think the people who are making Doctor Who, they thought, you know what? Why not bring in other people? There could be political stuff behind it. Of course, it was turned very political with the whole, she's a female, it's the first female Doctor and everything. But I think if you look at it just from a pure writing standpoint, it adds in a lot of variety that you can just throw in. In all essence, or in all respects, it shouldn't change all that much. But it's just, you add in a whole new pool of actors you can bring in. You add in a whole new bunch of storylines if you wanted to approach those topics of sexism and stuff. I just think it was probably blown a bit out of proportion with the whole internet. But one thing too that I wanted to bring up was, do you think, any of you guys really, that Doctor Who, the ratings fell purely because she was a female Doctor instead of a male Doctor?
No, I think it was mostly because the showrunner, the actress, and the writers have all done a horrible job.
Yeah, I think that to try to say this thing that happened is just because of this, it's, I mean, that would be like saying, well, no, I don't want to use any analogy related to the current situation because I want to protect Orville Nation's channel and the stream.
You can say whatever you want. I don't care.
I don't want the stream coming down. That's all I'm saying. Let's be more general. If you look at gas prices are way down right now. And it's primarily because of one thing, but there's a lot of other things that go into it.
Well, I think it's primarily two things. This bug thing going on, and then there was a gigantic oil war going on with
exactly
Russia.
My point.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. So whenever you have a situation, it's always more complex. You can say that there is probably some portion of the viewership that said the Doctor's male. No, you can't do this. I quit and left. But I would guess that that's a fairly small proportion of the people that actually left. I think there's a lot of reasons people have left, and it has to do with what's going on behind the scenes, what's going on social media. When people just last week, when people were logging in to do a rewatch that the BBC was hosting and get completely blocked for no reason at all, because some writer decided, I'm blocking all of you.
Now
that is a PR nightmare.
Yeah, true.
So there's all that's a business related thing. It might be politically motivated. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. It happened. It upsets people. What you say as a showrunner to the media in an interview, if you insult people, they're going to turn away. It's just the reality. There is a business element to this, and I think that's a huge part of it.
And to point out a
Go ahead.
comment Katie made about changing it up and everything else, we can go back to the Fourth Doctor. There was an entire arc of the Doctor and a female time lady, Romana.
Mhm.
Could have done something like that too.
Yeah. So I guess, okay. So following off of that, Katie, what I would say is, referring to your intramural league comparison, which I think is perfectly apt. I love that. But so this is where I still really agree with you. And I mentioned this in the last stream. The idea of changing the Doctor to female works very well if you set it up well, which they seem to have started to do with Capaldi. Some of the things he said, some of the things in relationship to Missy, I think was a great setup. We didn't see the payoff. We needed to see the payoff, and we needed to see it within the first series, and we didn't. We have not had an exploration of why the Doctor, and we have to assume this is all, fan speculation, that the Doctor, as he went into his regeneration, subconsciously felt that a female persona would be better for him, now her. But that was never addressed. They addressed it when he became Capaldi. Why this face? They didn't do it. They didn't do it for Jodie, and they needed
I'm really hoping that that's sort of like an ace in the hole that they're going to use for the next series and actually dive into. Because, I mean, the writers and everyone, they've clearly seen the fan reaction. You talk about the numbers, you talk about the comments, people on social media and everything. I hope that they will take these little, nuggets that the fandom's latched onto to make the show better. I think that could really turn the tables, is if they explore wait, why do I have the face that I have?
You mentioned the numbers again, and I think you're making a little bit of a leap there, DJ. We had 11 million people that first episode for Jodie Whittaker. I think that was inflated because it was a novelty. You now had a female Doctor, and everyone wanted to see it. So you had inflated numbers. But you look at Capaldi's numbers toward the end, they were down in the 5 million range. Yes, they've come down since then to the 4 point whatever. But I think you have something else going on there with the numbers. You've had a move from Saturday to Sunday. Traditionally in the UK, the family night of viewing TV is Saturday night. They moved the show to Sunday, and that's going to drop your numbers a little bit. And it's made even worse here in the United States. I know that the numbers have dropped tremendously here in the States, and going to Sunday is a very bad thing. Think about when the episodes aired. Fall for Series 11 and early in the winter for Series 12. What do you got going on then? You got football. Football's huge. That's going to drop the numbers too. So moving to Sunday was a very bad move, in my opinion, for these numbers.
And also because you have school nights and work nights.
You can look at it differently, though, too. You could look at it Saturday nights is not a good night either, because that's when you got the key demographic that they're after. The 20-something to 40-something. What do they usually do on a Saturday night? They go out.
That's what I'm supposed to be doing? I've been doing this all wrong.
That's what the typical of that age group does. Sunday night, they're all staying home because they have to get up and go to work the next day. So it's perfect for them. Plus, you can't fall back on this changing a Saturday to a Sunday because they consolidate those ratings for an entire week. That's 7 days, and they're still dropping. You can't
but then
blame it on a day change.
I think you
They're not
can
really
because
showing it.
you go back to Capaldi and his numbers were in the 5 range, and that was on Saturday. You're going to have some drop moving the day
And what
to
kind
Sunday.
of
And
Capaldi getting that last season?
Mm.
It was
actually, I
horrible.
think it was pretty good.
No, it
Not-
wasn't.
not-
Because you were reminded constantly that Bill was a lesbian. That was over and over throughout that season that you were reminded that. They only had like 3 decent episodes out of the whole thing.
I don't think I agree with that.
The writing for his final season was worse than his others.
I think I would put it well ahead of Series 8, but let Katie talk.
Oh, this is fun. I'm enjoying this.
Let me ask you guys a question. Does anybody here feel that Missy was snubbed?
Oh, so it depends on how you mean that.
Yeah.
I do feel that Missy, as with so many other great narrative threads, was just left hanging. And this, I see this happen with, I've seen this historically happen with the Master all along. Master, something happens, looks like that's it, no more Master, and always comes back. Usually, eventually, we get some sort of at least implied explanation for what happened and how the Master came back. When it looked like it was very clear that he was not coming back after the 96 movie. Well, when
96.
he comes, was it 96? Then when he does come back, there's just a brief line of explanation that he was needed for the Time War and he was given another set of regenerations. Then when it looked like he was gone again and he comes back as Missy, we get at least an explanation of what happened there too. Nothing since then. It looked like a very capped off timeline for the Master, and I want to know how she survived Tahiti and why, because now we have also lost the character progression that we saw in Missy, and the Master has just reverted back to insane Joker ripoff.
And we don't
You know?
even know where this Master fits in, because I would say they're trying to fit him in way earlier in his timeline using his weapon.
I think it's just a callback, because I think there were references that he made to his Missy time, so it definitely puts him
They
after.
missed a great opportunity though with Missy,
Agreed.
because there was a great female evil Time Lord,
The
Ronnie.
Yep.
They could have made Missy the Ronnie, still brought forth a good female character, and not messed with canon.
Actually, I feel like the Ronnie was never fully developed, in my opinion. She was just,
I agree.
she just seemed like a female Master, and I felt they could have done so much more with her.
How many times in the 80s did the Master get in a situation where you thought, there's no way he's going to survive, and
Yep.
next time he comes back and no explanation given? I think it's just a throwback to that.
Yeah,
Well, there was explanations. He was stealing bodies and such.
but
Well, that was in the 70s. I'm
And
talking
that-
about in the 80s,
and that
in the
is
Davidson Baker era, Colin Baker era.
and that worked back then. I don't think that works now. I think the audience expects more story development. There needs to be at least a nod to an explanation. If there's not, then it's kind of a cop-out. Okay, you just didn't put enough thought into it. You wanted to bring the Master back. We're just bringing him back. It's magic.
It's kind of akin to the Klingons changing their foreheads, and there's no explanation for outsiders.
Don't get me started. on that.
Yes, don't get me started.
Oh,
either.
Lord.
That's gotta. I think we need to do this kind of a thing with the Klingons on my channel one day.
Oh, I'm down for that.
Awesome. But yeah, I think that I think what we're dancing around with this last question is what I find at the heart of this issue, or the two hearts of this issue, and that is the see what I did there? Is the jettisoning of canon. It doesn't matter. We're going to do whatever we want. It doesn't matter what's gone before. Doesn't matter what's happened in the past 60 years. We're just making it up as we go because we can, and you're just going to like it. At least that's what it sounds like to me. And fans are going, no, we don't like it, and we're not going to accept it.
But now you've had like actual showrunners who have said Doctor Who is made to break canon.
I know.
We kind of touched on it in the last one with like you can either break or you can bend. It's a giant tapestry sort of thing, but I don't know. How do you guys? We talked about it last week, but just in summary, how do you guys stand on the whole breaking versus bending canon?
Well, since I brought it up, let me start. My whole situation, my whole point of view on this is, if you're going to write for an established storyline that's got this much legacy, and you're going to celebrate anniversaries, and you're going to do special events for the 40th, the 50th anniversary, then you have got to understand that you are operating within a sandbox that other people have created before you. If you want to go off and do your own thing, you don't call it Doctor Who. You go off and you create a whole new something. Blaze a trail like they did back in the day. If you're not going to do that, then you have to operate by the rules that were created for this universe. That's what fans expect. That's why they're fans. And as soon as you jettison that, you jettison the fans. That's my point of view on it.
I totally understand that, yeah.
Because what they did this season, nothing makes sense before then. Hartnell's doctor was the first doctor who supposedly stole the TARDIS, a Type 40 that was broken down, and when he landed on Earth, the chameleon circuit broke and left the TARDIS as a police box. What did this season's Doctor Who do? Brought in another doctor that is prior to this whole set. But what did she have? A TARDIS that was a police box that totally dumps on everything.
Well, do we actually know that the Ruth doctor, as I'll call her, was before Hartnell? I don't think that was established.
I don't know exactly.
It was eluded.
Yeah, it was definitely implied, although that brings up an excellent point. Now the fan speculation is no. She's actually the next doctor or a future doctor. That's why Jodie's doctor doesn't recognize her, and she had her memory wiped just from the chameleon arc. So, at the time she wouldn't have known, so on and so forth. But again, I don't want to go too far down the road of fan speculation, because it breaks my hearts every time. Because the fan speculation, the fans are brilliant at finding ways to make continuity work in genius ways. And if the showrunners would actually listen to it and go with it, they'd be doing just fine. But they don't. They always say, nope, your fan speculation is irrelevant. It's just this. Duh. But I did want to speak to something that Peggy had said in the stream a bit ago. She said, this is what the writers have always done. They've thrown, as far as continuity goes, they just throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks. I will agree with you to a point. The example I'll go back to that they've tried to use as their whole excuse for all of this is the Morbius doctors. Yes, when they created that episode, when they wrote it and they put it out there, the intent had originally been that the doctor had previous incarnations before the Hartnell doctor. Unfortunately, it did not stick. And they almost immediately said, no, the first doctor is the first doctor. And these are Morbius, incarnations. These are not the doctor. And no writer since then has acknowledged that as part of canon, and therefore it is not canon. You know, now if you want to do a retcon and something like that, that's fine. But if you do that, the consequence is you jettison the past 60 years of canon and the fans that have followed that 60 years of canon.
Well, not to go into too much detail, I think the Ruth Doctor could fit between the second and third Doctor.
That's my favorite opinion, yes.
Yeah, I really like that idea. It really kind of fits, especially with some of the things that were mentioned in the first episode she was in this past series.
Yes.
And you could say that the Doctor was called the Doctor for the first time with the Hartnell Doctor. Before that, maybe had a different name. In fact, we know the Doctor has a different name. No one knows it except River. Spoilers. So, you know, you could still say that the Hartnell Doctor was the first Doctor, but still have prior incarnations.
And that's where it kind of goes back on the point I made about, I think the showrunners and the people in charge should rely on the fandom, because we're the ones who have spent unhealthy amounts of time obsessing over the smallest of details that, like, other people who work for the show might not have been able to do. When you don't have a full core of hardcore, like, ride or die Doctor Who fans, you could miss some details that could slip through the cracks and make accidental errors, or, like you said, you could just throw stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and anger a few others.
Yeah, but then if you go with that whole thing, it still doesn't make sense why the Time Lords would have to give a new set of regeneration to Matt Smith's Doctor. It has to erase complete canon of Rassilon and all the rest.
Let me just say, I like Bird's comment here. You don't try to make a female version of Kirk. Make Captain Janeway.
Yeah, exactly.
But each Doctor is a little bit different from all the other ones. They have all the core all the core values, but each Doctor has their own personality.
And that's the key phrase, though. They all have their core.
So is there something? Okay, so obviously you guys, this is a question that I think everybody's thinking about. Is there something special about? And there obviously is there, but what do you guys think? Is there something special about the Doctor Who series and character? Like people are often comparing it to James Bond, but is there that parallel? Is there that parallel? Should the Doctor always be male? Like a lot of people think Bond should be male.
Again, I don't have really, certainly not as strong an opinion on it as DJ does. I think it's worth exploring, especially since we've established that Time Lords can, change genders.
And see, I still don't accept that.
Well, I get that, but unfortunately, that's a perfect example of that is established canon. It was established before the Doctor became.
994. Sorry. You got barometric pressure.
94 millibars.
But let me say this. Don't only establish canon since the BBC has went full on lefty and wanted to push these agendas.
That's where it became canon, but it was talked about way back in the Peter Davison era. There had been talk about a female Doctor way back then.
But they decided against it.
Not because they decided it couldn't be part of canon, just because they didn't think anyone was ready for it. And they probably were right.
I agree with you.
Because of all the grief that we got about it, even in the modern era. I think most people have totally gotten past it. If there's any fandom that can tolerate a gender change, it would be this one. Because,
oh my gosh, yeah.
Because the Doctor has many times, even as a male Doctor, said, no, we're kind of beyond that. Okay, we don't even think in terms of gender. The Doctor is really not supposed to be a romantic character. There shouldn't be any Hanukkah in the TARDIS anyway. Otherwise, you end up with a baby with time head, and you don't want that.
That screw up with the Eighth Doctor. I will admit that there.
Exactly.
Screwing that over with the Eighth Doctor.
It was those Americans that did it.
You're not wrong. That's actually very true.
That's very true. Yeah.
See, like,
And I love McGann, but the 2 points from that movie that they did was the romantic aspect and then trying to allude that he was half human was complete stupidity.
And that goes back to what is canon, because, you know, you have the TV movie say that he is half human. And in fact, you had multiple characters say that in that film.
There's ways around that.
Then it gets thrown out.
What does River say all the time? The doctor lies.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's true. He does.
And that's just like with the Morbius stuff. You can point to one example and say, look, see that? And I could say, yeah, but the preponderance of evidence since then is this. You know, you can, going back to what Peggy said, they throw things at the wall, it didn't stick. You know, there's something to be said for history and time. Yes, things can be rewritten, but by and large, when they keep reinforcing and reinforcing a piece of canon, it is fixed and established canon. It's what is there are fixed points in time, and then there are the things that can be changed. You know, there are things that can be changed, but there are some things that are fixed. And we kind of and it's a lot easier to tell that because now we have wikis to follow these things. There's, you know, multiple episodes where you can point to, they've reinforced over and over again. There's 12 regenerations. There's 12 regenerations, you know, and I think, oh, go ahead.
And I think there's a way to fix that issue. You know, what's that, DJ?
There's no 12 regenerations now.
Right.
Sure, there is.
I'm just
sure
saying. I'm just saying that. Go ahead.
Well, here's how you fix that. Once they figured out how the regenerations worked, they instituted this 12 regeneration limit on the Time Lords. They could have done that to the Doctor too. Why not? They based it on his or her genetic makeup and how that person regenerated. So if they can stop it from happening after 12 times in Time Lords, why can't they do it to her or him or that person?
And now we're going back to where it just breaks the whole concept of storytelling. For years, one of the things that was incredible about the Doctor as a hero was this was an individual who was just your average Time Lord. In fact, wasn't even the best, just a renegade Time Lord who decided, I don't like the establishment and the rules placed on me. I'm running off and doing my own thing. And that put him at odds with the Time Lords time and time again. Now, and we also love the fact that every time someone tried to say, you know, he's like a god, he would go, no. I'm just another being, and you humans, you're awesome. You know, you have such short times, but you shine so bright, and that's why it's so important for me to be willing to sacrifice my multiple lives to save you guys. You know, that's something that's pretty awesome. Just someone who was willing to sacrifice and go against his own people, and even heck, ultimately wipe out his own people and the enemy in order to save the universe. Now we that history has been completely rewritten. Now this really is a god who really does have unlimited regenerations and unlimited energy that can do anything, can heal Graham's cancer, and if she doesn't heal somebody, what does that say about her? There are no more stakes. And now every episode should be just Deus Ex Machina. That's not good storytelling. That's not a hero that I'm going to look up to. That doesn't inspire me.
But if they have limited the characters' regenerations, then it does go back to the way it was before. She doesn't have unlimited energy. She doesn't have unlimited regenerations. She still has limits.
Well, you're basing that on speculation because it hasn't been.
True.
Yeah, we
True.
still, again, that's bad storytelling if that's the case because we have not had that established. There
Look
is
at that
no
final episode where they killed that kid over and over and over
Yeah,
to find the secrets to regeneration. Now,
I
if
agree with you
that
there,
was the case-
TJ.
Now, if that was the case, why would they have ever let him/her leave in the first place, knowing that somebody else could get a hold of him, her, and create their own race?
That would be like during the Cold War if we were to just send our citizens out into the world with our nuclear code strapped to their backs. You know? Yeah, probably not such a great idea. But
This is why I keep pointing out that Chibnall is one of the worst showrunners.
not thinking through story. No, absolutely. I mean, and that's the problem. When the answer is because reasons, because that's what we decided to do. Just go with it. That's what we're doing now. No, that's not good writing. Good writing is thinking through these things. And if someone else points it out, going, oh, good point. Well, let me think that through. Let me come up with a reason. Let me weave something into this tapestry. But they don't do that. It's because I said so.
Katie,
Another point. It's Gallifreyan Time Lords that had this regeneration limits. The Doctor is not a Gallifreyan.
Anymore.
Yeah, according to the new canon. Doctor is not Gallifreyan. The Doctor is some unknown race.
See,
But the Time Lords were based upon the regeneration ability of the Doctor or that person.
Yeah, but
So-
that would be saying that if I could splice my brain power into a chimp and make the chimp be able to talk, it's still not going to be human. So the Doctor, even though they spliced whatever they had to make their regeneration work, will not apply to this unknown being.
How do you know? That's speculation too.
the problem that I'm seeing with like pretty much all of what's going on right now in the fandom is that a lot of it is based off of speculation, due in part to poor writing. Like you're leaving a lot of it up to speculation. But I think the way, call me an optimist. I'm a perpetual optimist, and I always
I'll call
will
you an
be.
optimist. I've
But-
many times called you an optimist.
I am blissfully optimistic and sometimes blindly optimistic, but I enjoy it. But I'm hoping that going into the third Jodie season, that it'll come together kind of like how Sherlock episodes come together, where you are left thinking, what the freak, what the hell is going on here? And then right at the end of the episode, you're like, oh, you actually tied every single loose thread together and finished off the bracelet. Like you're finishing this off. That's what I'm hoping they're doing. And I'm going to stick with that.
Personally,
Well,
I
you
would
know,
have to
Katie-
say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Troy.
I would say not the best analogy because I don't think that Sherlock's writing was all that great. I can't stand. I will defend that. I
agree
cannot
with Troy on
stand.
that one, actually.
I cannot stand telling
This is a
people.
thick book. It can do a lot of damage when thrown at a computer.
Is that Sherlock Holmes?
Yes, it is.
Then read that and then compare it to episodes of Sherlock. If you read the books, you when Sherlock tells how he came to the conclusion, you look back and you go, "Oh, that's right. I could have seen that. Why didn't I see that? It really was elementary." You watch an episode of Sherlock and you go, okay, so you knew something magical that I could not have seen in the narrative. I had no hope of solving this. That's not cool.
No.
Yeah, see,
You have that opportunity in majority.
that is my problem with Sherlock. But you know what? That goes back to my personal opinion about Moffat as a showrunner as opposed to a writer of individual episodes. I think that says a lot to Doctor Who fans. Just because you can write some of the best individual episodes doesn't mean we should put you in charge of a whole show. Just saying.
This is where we go back to the agree to disagree part and move on.
Well, I also
Katie?
don't want to go off on a tangent. I think we could talk offline about this a little bit more because I think it would be fun to do.
Yeah.
And actually, if you want to go back into the past episodes, not classic, I'm just saying this new whole run. Who wrote some of the worst episodes?
Unfortunately, I tend to forget the worst episodes.
Yeah, so do I.
Chibnall was the writer of some of the worst episodes.
He wrote some really bad episodes. They are very
He
forgettable.
had some poor ones, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
But Katie, I will agree with you. There is room for optimism here because Chibnall came in with a plan. He came in with like a 4 or 5 year plan. So hopefully, he can tie these things together and it'll turn out to be something we'll be really pleased with.
I'm hoping that hindsight will be 2020 and we'll look back at the year 2020 and think, oh, right, they were setting up for something.
But I do have to, I do want to quote, and I won't even say who I'm quoting, but I'm going to quote another YouTuber. Hope is not a strategy. And that's a huge problem that we're having right now. And I've said this to my other co-host on the Professor Geek channel, who Big Al says that Katie is his spirit.
You can say it's Gary. You can say it's Gary. That's okay.
Okay, yeah, that it is Gary B.
We all watch Gary. We all watch Gary.
Hope is not a strategy, but Big Al considers Katie his spirit animal because she is so optimistic.
Aww.
So, but that comes with the baggage of me telling you what I tell him all the time. That's great that you're fired up about that. There he is. Nothing wrong with being optimistic, Katie. You guys are soulmates, I think. There's no doubt about it.
We love Katie's optimism, even though we may disagree with her.
And I love Big Al's optimism. But like I say, that wears thin. When you go a whole season and the payoff doesn't come till the end of the season, that's good writing. When you're going into your 4th season and you haven't gotten a payoff yet and you're still hoping, that goes beyond being optimistic. I think that goes to, sorry, Katie.
No, go ahead. I know what you're going to say.
That's a bit naive. And even if it's not, even if it does pay off for you, too late for me and too late for millions of fans who have stopped watching already.
Well, and see, I think that goes along with the trying something new. You've had like series arcs, but what if you have like actual series arcs where you go multiple series to get to a story instead of just one series? And it could be something new. I mean, when they started doing that serial changing to an arc, a season arc, that was shocking for some people. And I think this one might just be too much of a shock and they're going to regress back, but it could just be a new theory.
There is where I can see some optimism. Okay. And that what you just said about maybe they'll pull it back, because the one upside is, and I mentioned this last time, they still can. They can still explain away all of this. They can still say, most of this is just a lie perpetrated by the master.
They can pull it back, but I don't think they're going to, because this is Chibnall. He wanted to drastically transform this show into what he wanted it to be, and it didn't matter what anything was in the past. He wanted to eliminate that and make it what he felt it should be.
That's what I was going to.
But what happens after he's gone? You could just have another person come in and be like, screw that, I'm going back to what Moffat and RTD said, sort of thing. You could always have someone come back and just wipe that clean.
And that is the problem that we're finding ourselves in, this attitude that they can do that now I'm in charge. And it's not just this fandom. It's so many fandoms. So many fandoms that are doing that are doing exactly that. I'm in charge now, and therefore I can do whatever I want. No, you have got to respect that you did not create this thing. You have become an ensemble. You've taken the reign, and you've got to respect what came before it. Otherwise, all you're doing is you're knocking the wheels off of someone else's cart.
It was a woman that started this franchise many decades ago.
That's true.
And said
it's very true.
The way that it was going.
And what a great story. I mean, just what she had to fight against back in the 60s as a woman and showrunner to get Doctor Who off the ground. We wouldn't have it today if it weren't for her.
Yeah.
Katie, let me ask you a question. Is there, and you can say what you're really thinking. Is there a generational issue with your perception and the perception of others?
Ooh. See, you have the generational as in like human generations, and then you have the generational as in Doctor Who generations.
Well, I mean people. Wait a second.
Yeah.
No, I mean people. I mean like people in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
I mean people. People who are above 40,
like us.
Yeah. I think there has to be. There's just the underlying there is, because my generation, we grew up with very different things. Like we were taught in school. We're the ones who grew up with participation awards. We're the ones who grew up with, honest to gosh, different issues. Like I went to school when we had 9/11, whereas other people went to school when there was literally a war, like hardcore back during Vietnam and Korea and stuff. And I just think every generation has their own different set of ideals, and mine is shifted more. Just what we're taught in school is the more girls and boys are equal, and then nowadays you have people who are going to the extreme of, well, girls need to prove that they're better than boys, and you're getting more of the gender specific. Whereas back, say in the 60s, 50s, 40s, 70s, all of that, you're still dealing with racial issues, which we still have to this day. But I feel like for my generation, at least, we have the male-female dynamic and the gender roles as more of a highlight. And I think it's just a matter of what our generations are told is important or the most important. And I think that kind of leaches into television, because now you're seeing with Doctor Who, you have the gender role and you have the male and the female thing versus, well, we're still seeing the racial differences with 13 and her companions, but it's just a matter of which generation's in charge. It'll dominate what you see being brought into the spotlight more.
Okay.
So I think that speaks to something else. Whether you're talking about gender, whether you're talking about generations, there used to be a concept that if I'm going to write a show, a movie, a book, a story, I want it to be something that embraces as many people in the audience as possible, so I can have as large an audience as possible. And unfortunately, I think what we're starting to see is exactly what you said. I agree with you 100%. We have one generation speaking to one generation and one specific demographic. And that means wonderful, wonderful. You are focusing on that to the exclusion of everyone else. Now you're not including, you're excluding.
Exactly. And see, the thing is, I think a lot of sci-fi writers, because we had this topic a long time ago with Star Trek 2009, is you're taking these die-hard fans with this brilliant series and franchise, and you're thinking, I want to get more people involved. This show was developed back in the 60s, and it really took off in the 80s and 90s. How do we get 2,000 and millennials to join? Well, let's make it Fast and Furious. Let's make it focus on what roles they're specifically focusing on. And sure, that's great, because you're trying to get in new fans. You're just taking it to the extreme where you're actually pushing out the earlier generations that are at the base and bare bone backbone of your society as a fandom.
So the idea
Doctor Who's doing now.
I'm sorry, what was that?
What do you think Doctor Who's doing now? It's pushing out all those other generations.
Not just Doctor Who, but all of our fandoms seem to be doing
a majority of our fandoms right now are
Star Wars.
Exactly. And how is that working out for y'all? It's great. You're trying to bring in new viewership. Great. Did you really? A little bit, maybe, but you lost so much more than you gained. What good is that? You've got to, again, I hate to beat an adage over and over again, but throw the baby out with the bathwater. You you jettison the fans for what? Not enough payoff to make it worth it.
Let me just say for the record that Katie, I'll let you go in a sec, DJ. Katie's opinions, for example, on Picard, were not, the greatest. She was very objective on. She's very objective on her observations. I'm sorry, DJ. Go ahead.
Now, see, you had a great character that embodied all that, Captain Jack.
Oh, yes.
True. Very true.
Nobody really had complaints about Captain Jack.
I want more of him.
We all
that's
do.
the only thing
Right?
they're going to bank on Captain Jack to try to save this third series of Whitaker.
Well, see, one of the things with Captain Jack, because touching back on a subject we talked about earlier, was, the Doctor Who fandom, if they're going to be accepting of a change up in gender or a change up in anything, it's going to be Doctor Who's fandom, because you have Captain freaking Jack, and he's one of the most beloved characters of all time. And so I think, honestly, I'm one of the people who hopes that they really bring Captain Jack in and blend him in, because I would love to see more of that.
But the key thing is, Captain Jack was his own set established character. He wasn't one that you were trying to transform into what you have. A small sector of the fandom wanted.
I agree with you, DJ.
DJ.
I think it's a much larger group that don't like the direction this is all going now.
Yeah.
And I will bet Chibnall's going to double down again and push this even harder, and is going to drive away more fans next season.
So let me throw a spanner in the works.
Wait a minute. I got one last thing.
Okay.
I'm going to be surprised if Doctor Who lasts past one more season.
I'm glad you got that last point in, because that leads exactly to the spanner that I wanted to throw in the works, just to shake things up. Get a little political, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But one of the key differences between Doctor Who and most of our other fandoms is the profit motive. Okay? With all the other fandoms, whether it's a movie or a TV show on network television, in order to keep the show going, you need viewership, you need ad revenue, you need ticket sales, you need to sell the merchandise. Okay? The difference with BBC is socialized TV. They get their money no matter whether someone is watching or not. Now, there is some business aspects that go into that do have an effect, but that insulates them. They don't have to be worried about whether or not you like the show or whether or not anyone's watching it. They can just keep going whether they have viewership or not. And
I think one of the reasons why Doctor Who will not be canceled, even after if anything happens, is it's mainly because of that. And also, if you look at the opinions and just the way that the BBC works, the opinions that they back, and not the politics that they push, but like what they believe in.
Kind of, yes.
In a nice way. The new Doctor Who is reflecting what the BBC is really going for. And so I don't think they will cancel it. Because they're starting to branch out more. They have the Build-A-Bear Workshop Bears. They have all of this cosplay. They're branching out in merchandising, which is bringing in more revenue. I don't think revenue with, of course, the BBC, that's not an issue at all. It's just going to be a matter of when are they just going to cancel it because it's no longer relevant TV? And I don't think that'll ever happen.
They're not making the revenue off the Doctor Who merchandise. Let's be clear.
It spreads it just spreads the image. If I walk around town with a Doctor Who shirt, people sometimes ask me, what's that? Like, I went to Sonic dressed as the 13th Doctor, and
no one noticed.
Nobody knew. Soul noticed. But you know what? Now I'm having friends ask me, wait, what was that post about? Just even if you bring in one or two people from something other than just, hey, turn on your TV, you're getting the message out there.
The reason the classic series was canceled was because the BBC bigwigs didn't like it anymore. It wasn't because of the low ratings. I'm sure that played a little bit into their minds, but they did not like what Doctor Who was at the time, and they canceled it.
So let me just switch sides on the argument that I just created. But on the other hand, I just saw some behind the scenes talk and some insiders talking about the BBC, saying that there have been a lot of layoffs at the BBC, that they're starting to tighten their belts, and it is starting to look like, despite what I just argued, that they have this bit of a cushion, it's already starting to affect them, and they got to really start thinking about what they're going to do going forward.
But see, if they're tightening their belt, like at the core of the BBC, you have Doctor Who. Like that show has been with them for forever. So I feel like since it's so close to the core of the BBC, I think it'll probably be sheltered at least for a decent amount of time.
I agree with you, but
I agree.
What I'm then starting to say is, if that's the case, they need to start making it revenue generating again.
I don't think so. If it loses another 1 million viewers, they're going to dump that like a hot potato and look for something else to bring in the people to watch.
Before they do that, DJ, I think they'll change the showrunner, get a different actor in the role, get some different writers, and try to revive it. And then if it in a series or two does not respond positively, then maybe they'll cancel it.
There's another way they can go about it, though, and it could be a compromise between the both of you. And it could be they do what they did after the Sylvester McCoy era. They don't cancel it. They just put it on hiatus indefinitely, and then eventually bring it back with a new showrunner. They're basically doing both. Yeah. I personally, if I was going to make a prediction, that would be my prediction. And it's not a bad idea.
And see, one of the things that I think of, because I am a hardcore Trekkie, you had Enterprise get canceled after season 4, and people thought that was the death of Trek. And then lo and behold, you come back later, they bring it back. And I think Doctor Who is going to be the franchise that never dies. Yeah. I just like, they might have long hiatuses. Heck, they could do what Sherlock does and just take like 3 years off to work and do the scripts and everything. Hopefully it won't take like 2 or 3 years to get 3 episodes out of it, but they could take a break. And I think as much as fans who are diehard who love the content would hate it, having to have to wait, I think that could do some good, because then you can wait, you can regroup, you can redevelop. And it's a lot like thunderstorms. Sometimes you have a tornado, it lifts, it recycles, gets its stack together, drops another tornado. It's a lot like fandom too.
I like how you worked weather.
Enterprise had the problem.
Every time.
Enterprise had the problem. It was put on a network that was not seen by all.
Yeah.
It had people that took over CBS that just wanted to eliminate science fiction altogether because they didn't like it. Enterprise was getting really good 3rd and 4th seasons. Yeah. That was their best season. They were gaining.
Yeah, but you had fans who, once they finished the 2nd season, you had fans saying it's going to die, it sucks. A lot like what's happening with Doctor Who. And then it's like, okay, wow, the Xindi arc, and you bring in all the augments and all this stuff. It's like, we'll give it a little more time to age. It might just need some help.
I don't have any faith in Chibnall.
Yeah, I think most people have kind of. I think a lot of people have lost faith in Chibnall, and I think that going back to the profit motive. Yes, it's true that BBC isn't making money off of viewership. They aren't making money off of, they do make some money off of sponsorship. But with Doctor Who, the real money comes from the marketing.
Though that could change because the British government wants to get rid of that.
Well, that's a whole other ball of wax. But I agree with you. But as it stands right now, if they want to make their money, they want to look at that marketing. That marketing makes a lot of difference. And Katie, I'm sorry, but the Jodie Whittaker fans buying Jodie Whittaker's sonic screwdriver are a very small minority. That merchandise is not selling as well as the classic stuff. Well,
that's why you're starting to see people bring back like older Sonics, and you're seeing toy revivals that are in the works.
And they clearly are getting a message. Wow. They're not buying the new stuff. And we're seeing this in our other fandoms too. Star Wars. Nobody is buying Rise of Palpatine, merchandise or action figures. I said it. They're buying.
I agree with it.
They're buying the vintage stuff and the re-releases of the vintage stuff and the new vintage stuff.
Like I just got River Sonic and all the other Sonics too. Exactly. And of course I have Jodie's, but I wanted to go back and get the classics and stuff. And it was freaking hard to find.
And going back,
they want to have money boost. Do this.
That's, oh my gosh. And that's the other thing. Where are we getting all of this merchandise from? Mostly from secondary markets. We're paying a premium price to someone who's reselling this stuff. The IP holders aren't seeing that money. If they want to see that money, they got to do what Lucasfilm is doing and keep licensing, this stuff and putting out new old stuff.
And see, the thing is too, like you can take, because I have Tennant's screwdriver here. It's flimsy, it's kind of and the molding is not the greatest. With the tech advances you've had from the early 2000s to now, holy cow, you guys could make these so much better for so much cheaper, and you would have diehard fans who already have this stuff buy more.
Buy it again.
Lucasfilm has always been out on the forefront of their marketing, and whereas some other IP holders tend to go to conventions and slap around cease and desist orders, Lucasfilm may do that too, but then they look at what was selling and go, we need to make that so that we're making the money. That is brilliant. I wish the other IP holders would be doing that, but they don't. I don't know why. So Lucasfilm got slapped with not having Baby Yoda out there sooner. They know this. They've put out the cease and desists on all the Etsy stores doing Baby Yodas, but they are getting ready to flood the market. They've already started flooding the market with Baby Yoda merchandise. Brilliant. Genius. That's what needs to happen. That's what we need to see Doctor Who doing. And maybe they are starting to do it, but they also need to start looking at their current storylines and going, what is it that we have lost that we need to regain? They kind of started doing it this last season too. They were not doing any referring back to the old chronologies and the old storylines. And what did we get? We started getting all the old monsters back. We started getting references to the past and so forth. So they did get the message, and then they gave us that last episode. So hopefully they've learned something.
I have a free message for the BBC. This is from me to you. Take a sonic screwdriver, take an electronic door, make it so that your sonic screwdriver can actually turn the lock on the door. Boom, you will have all Whovians buying your merchandise. You're welcome.
If
I could have a Sonic on my keychain to open my house door, you know I would.
There are different kinds of functional sonic screwdrivers that are being put out by non-licensed companies, but to keep this a family-friendly thing, I won't talk too much about that. But yes,
the 13th Doctor's Sonic is shaped like what some of these third parties are putting out.
Yep, there's
I'm the innocent child of the group,
and they do buzz.
Oh gosh.
Okay, let's change the topic. Let's again. We
Somebody guys, it's my observation that the UK fans are much more likely to think that the Doctor will be canceled.
I see that too.
I think it's maybe because they understand it better, because it's and Americans think, oh, it's public broadcasting, it'll never get canceled. But
hey,
any comments on that?
Can you say that again? I may have misunderstood you.
It's my feeling that the UK fans, even the people in the chat from the UK, are much more are thinking much more probable that Doctor Who will get canceled than the Americans.
Okay, and that you're absolutely right. That probably does speak to an understanding of the way the BBC works better than my understanding. I probably do have some false assumptions. I am totally open to being educated in that regard.
And just out of curiosity, everybody in the chat, if you're from the UK, I know who some of you are. If you're from the UK, raise your hand and say whether you think it'll be canceled or not.
Yeah, I
just out of curiosity.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a regional aspect to it, because US fans versus UK fans versus fans in China or Japan, like you have very different views of other countries that may or may not be true. So, and their inner workings are definitely different. So I guess as Americans on the panel, we might not have the best grab on it. Is it on wibbly wobbly ground there, Darth Raven? Or Reven?
I just love
Needs a
watching
regeneration fast, according to Darth Reven.
So Fordian says cancel. And he's from Darth Raven says cancel if not regenerated.
if not regenerated.
So what do you think with Jodie most likely like staying the 3 terms that you have for all the other doctors? Do you think that they'll just jump ship with the whole crew and staff that they had and start anew? And have a new showrunner after just 3 series?
Well, Chibnall came into this saying that he wouldn't be the showrunner unless he could have a female doctor. So Chibnall will be gone if Jodie's gone, or vice versa.
Well, and that takes into account the what's the next doctor going to be? Are you going to have male, female? Are you going to have gender fluid, which will set off a whole new powder keg? Are you going to
that
have
makes no sense? That makes no sense whatsoever.
Wait. Can we explore that for a second? When you say that, what do you mean by that in this context?
Well, kind of the way, you know how on social media now, if you look all the days, you have people in the LGBTQA plus communities.
Okay.
I mean, you could choose any letter in the LGBTAQ and personify that as the doctor, honestly. And choosing people who don't have a gender identity, or there's all these different facets now of human identification that they could go with.
Okay.
But would they, and are they going to see, this is what myself and a group of people that I talk about this with are thinking is, if they choose to go back to a male, will it be the classic white male doctor, or will they choose a different ethnicity?
See, and that's where I think we have this conversation all the time about the use of science fiction for messaging. And you can say, well, Doctor Who or Star Trek or whatever has always been about this kind of messaging and always about starting these dialogues and blah, 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 which is true. But there is the way that you do it. There is the soft, unspoken way of doing it. And there is the overt preaching, there is the just not even I mean, if you establish the doctor as being able to change into, well, you're right. It's been white male all this time with all kinds of genetic differences within that scope. Now female. Now let's say they were to go to a black male, okay? And then they go to something else, and then they go to something else. That's entirely possible under the current paradigm of how the regenerations work, and it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything.
Yes.
But unfortunately, the way they did it made it that way. And if they did address it very specifically, instead of it just being, you know what, gender isn't an issue for the doctor because we've already established he's not human. Gender doesn't apply the way it does to humans. Okay, fine. It's an alien and it's not the same. You can project onto that individual a representation that may or may not be intended. That's how sci-fi is really meant to be used. Unfortunately, that's not how it's used. It's a cudgel now to preach.
Exactly.
And that turns too many people off. Unfortunately, it's turning off the people that you are most trying to reach with your message.
Yeah.
No,
the thing that with sci-fi, it's always been able to take real world issues and take it out of the real world so you can think about it in a think-take situation. No one gets hurt. You either like it or you hate it. It doesn't change what's actually happening in society. Whereas with now modern shows, for example, Star Trek Picard, you take these issues that are already hot button issues and say, this is your opinion you're supposed to have. Smack, smack, smack. Like, you're supposed to be like, here are 2 pills, and here's a 3rd one that you can add in. Now, pick which one you'd like. It's up to you. We're just going to show you what each of them does. And most of the time, there's a right and a wrong, and it's pretty easy to see the right and the wrong. But you're still making that choice for yourself. You aren't being demanded, like vehemently told by the good guys in the show, this is the only right way.
But that's
Can we?
I agree with.
We just lost the comment, but I did want to address it.
Which one?
Mr. Lordell.
Yes, I was just
as an
comment on
African
that.
American. Yeah, go ahead. You can. Why don't you?
Well, he says, as an African American nerd and a fan of Doctor Who, race isn't important. Gender isn't important. An actor who takes on the role and makes it come to life is more important. I totally agree.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter who gets the role as long as they're really, really good. Get the best person.
And
Doesn't matter if they're black, Asian, green, yellow, whatever.
Yeah.
And I think most fans do agree with that. The problem is when white showrunners have decided to be offended on behalf of another group. You know, when you have somebody who says a comment like that, they're saying, look, I didn't have a problem, but now you've made it a problem. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Exactly.
You know?
I think the next time you have a female doctor, like Jodie just, with that whole thing, they just destroyed, smashed it, and left carnage behind with the introduction of a female doctor. The next one that's going to happen, people won't bat an eye because it's already happened, sort of a thing. And that's how I've taken to looking at it, is like they just destroyed that. And now that we move on, it's not going to be an issue. There's a more subtle way of bringing in new characters with new races and new genders than just absolutely leaving destruction behind you in the wake.
And jettisoning fans.
We need to get into that.
Wake.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think part of the problem is the media. You know, they want to push gender politics or racial politics. They're part of the problem.
See, that gets people talking, and not necessarily in a good way. That's one of the things with social media, is you want to start conversations. That's just what it is. But now people are taking topics that have a lot of conversation are the negative ones.
Well, let's face it, Doctor Who, the last 2 seasons have been nothing but preachy, over the top, bash your head in.
Negative, yeah.
Negative.
Yeah.
You take the very first, no, wait a minute. You take the very first 6 episodes of Whittaker. What were 2 of them about?
Race and gender.
Race and gender. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
2 out of the first 6 was beating you over the head with racism.
One of the reasons that I want to, I'm doing it again. I'm cheerleading for Orville Nation again. But one of the things I love so much about, and what really brought me to Orville Nation, was what is it called again? Power Woman Wednesdays? Is that what the name of the show is called?
Basically, it's Katie and Raquel night.
Yes.
We oscillate between Tuesday and Thursday, mostly falling on Wednesday.
Katie and Raquel, I just, in a respectful, platonic way, fell in love with you guys because of the way I have felt as a male, constantly being degraded by current media. I am the evil one just because of my gender and color. Mm-hmm. And why do I want to continue watching these shows that make me feel that way? And to hear some fans, female fans saying, no, we don't want that to happen to our brothers. Okay. We men are not evil. Okay. We want equality, but we don't want equality by making men less than,
that is literally, yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But that is seriously one of the major things of me, like taking me out of fandom, taking me out of social, like that is just bare bones me, is like, you can't advance yourself by dragging someone else down. I have lived that, and I do not want anyone else to feel that ever again. I don't give a crap what you feel. Everyone, if you want people to be equal, you cannot take someone and shove them to your feet.
Well, it's one way to do it, but it's not a good way to do it. And then
they're going to come back and do the same thing to you, and you're just going to have this teeter-totter of inequality.
Yep. And going back to what PJ was talking about earlier with the generational thing, the generation of feminism. There was the second wave of feminists who are coming out now and saying exactly what you're saying. Not to label you, but I guess I'm kind of labeling you as a second generation feminist. That feminism always used to be about
next generation.
Yeah, always used to be about equality, you know, and what's right is right. Okay. If men have kept women down historically, then and that's wrong, then you don't continue that. You know, two wrongs don't make it right. You kind of lose your argument by getting even. And unfortunately, the third wave feminists seem to be doing exactly that. And that's what we're seeing in so much of the what we're calling preaching in our fandoms.
Yeah. No, it's the preaching aspect, definitely.
Let me just say, because we have another spot here, I'm gonna bring in LDG Pixels to join us. Hello,
Sweet.
LDG. Nice.
Good
background.
morning. Thank you.
Great. Now I'll never get time to talk.
Ooh.
Welcome, LDG.
I could tell you about the atmospheric setup.
I'm trying to keep the strokes down, so I'm not going with the psychedelic.
You have some nice wind shear going on there with the upper level cirrus clouds and the lower level cumulus. I don't get a lot of opportunities to flex, okay, guys?
I love meteorology. You can talk all you want, Katie.
I just like chasing tornadoes.
Tell us, LDG, why you're such a big fan of Jodie Whittaker.
Because she's a champ.
Because
she is a champ. She is trying to spin straw into gold. She really is. Same thing that Capaldi had to do.
Yeah.
But she's having a harder time with it.
Less to work with.
Very little to work with. You know, and I just hope she can pull it off the next season. But Chibnall's got to go.
I think one thing.
Chibnall and Whittaker are attached to the hip.
He's attached to her, but it's not the other way around, is it?
Oh yeah. Because she doesn't want anybody else but him. And that is fact.
I heard
she
that too.
I'm sorry.
She will go if he goes.
I never thought I'd hear myself say I want Moffat back.
Right?
I thought I'd hear that. I really.
There was so much resentment for Moffat. Jeez, I'm still new. But...
What are you talking about?
Over on the Professor Geek channel, one of the things we like to talk about Superman a lot there. And I used to not care for Superman Returns, but I said, boy, since the Zack Snyder era, I kind of think that it makes the Superman Returns era look better by comparison. I think we're seeing the same thing with the Moffat era.
You got the same thing with the Star Trek era. Discovery's the new worst on the totem pole. Enterprise is like, we aren't on the ground anymore.
I know. Enterprise is like, wow. You know, that was 8.
I've always liked Enterprise.
So the same here.
It was a good series.
And Enterprise it didn't get what it deserved. It was good. It was good.
And exactly what Katie was saying, but in more practical terms, people are using Enterprise to say to combat the argument, well, this is why Discovery looks the way it does and completely changed the look of everything because that 60s look wouldn't work now in the modern. No, you already established in canon what the bridge of the Enterprise looks like. And yes, it can still work because look at what they did with Enterprise. They showed us that bridge again and it still worked. It
looked great. It looked great.
It was realistic for the time.
Made Trek. Star Trek continues. Best fan made. And it shows the classic era ships.
Yep.
It does.
As Retro Blasting keeps saying, the fans are doing the best work. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the new name of Axonar Comics. I want to
X World Entertainment.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the things they do is highlight so many of the fan films that people are doing. And yeah, maybe the production value isn't the greatest, but some of the stories are well thought out. Really, really good stuff. I just saw on someone else's channel, they took their action figures, a fan playing with his 9-year-old daughter, doing a Star Wars Mandalorian story. And I'm like, this is actually a pretty good story, you know? I mean, terrible. I mean, it's toys that they're playing with, but the story behind it was like, that's pretty good.
I've recently my guilty pleasure has become fan fiction. I know.
No. It's becoming more and more acceptable because of what we've had as an option.
Well, and this fall with no TV, no new shows, it's going to be the new renaissance for fan fiction. But I read a fan fiction recently that is longer than Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, 250,000 words. It is the best book. I consider it a book that I have ever read in my life. And I wanted it to be an episode. I'm just thinking, why aren't studios jumping on this? Like we were talking the last time we had a debate, like we're going to get together hopefully and work something out so we can write an episode together and do something like that and make a fan made thing. Like they need to rely on the fans.
And I've spoken to exactly that point on Professor Geek's channel before. We've talked about that. The big problem is it relates to why some of what we're seeing is happening. When you see them changing canon just for the apparent sake of doing so, doing these reboots, changing the look by 20% and whatnot, it all has to do with business behind the scenes. They don't want to reference some writer from a previous episode because they don't want to have to pay royalties to it. Yeah. But in so doing, they're ignoring that canon and they're upsetting their fans. You know, that's one of the biggest problems with Picard was on the one hand, they did reference somebody who did write an episode, did not pay her royalties, and now that's caught up in a lawsuit. But then there's a whole bunch of things that were completely not even referenced because they didn't want to go down that route. And it really, really, really hurt the story. We're seeing it with Star Wars. Don't want to give Papa George any extra money, so let's get rid of the legacy characters. Well, you're cutting yourself off at the knees by doing that.
Exactly.
Okay. PJ, I have a question.
Yep.
If I may, for anybody that does love Doctor Who, if you want to see some really good fan done Doctor Who stories, if it's all right with you, I will put the guy's link into the chat.
Yeah, please do.
His name is Dr. Alex.
I would be fired up about that. Yeah.
And yes, he has done, from my understanding, the audio plays too.
Sweet.
And PJ, what was the name of the bloke from the last stream? Was it Michael who did a little
Eric, the fan film?
Oh, the video.
I was real close, wasn't I? Yeah, I mean, if you can find that, and share it, because I thought that was just brilliant.
You mean the Orville fan film?
No. The
Doctor Who one where they're looking through the Dalek eye stalk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
He was in the stream last time. One of the 8.
Constantly changing costumes.
Yes.
Oh,
he was brilliant, wasn't he?
Absolutely brilliant.
Brian. Yeah, I was still real
bad with names.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Honestly, I'm glad that there's the little boxes. I'd probably forget my own. I have forgotten my own.
What the hardest part is PJ, DJ, JP. Yeah. I mean,
LDG.
Just tell me the odd one. That'll.
I have a question for all you guys. Tell me, and starting with Katie. Tell me a low point in Whittaker's first season for you.
Ooh.
What is a low point for you in Whittaker's first season?
Oh my gosh. There's not necessarily one big low point. It's a lot of small dips. But I think just
And if you don't, you can't identify one, that's okay. We'll go to.
I might have to. I'll think about it because I have 3 that I'm debating on. But yeah, go to someone and then I'll come back.
Okay. LDG, what about you?
Timeless Children. The last episode.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That's
second. That was second series.
Second. Okay. Yeah, when they completely destroyed who the Doctor was, that I didn't like that. Are you only asking about first series?
Yeah, my question was about first series, but if that's your answer, that's fine.
That one. Yeah, that one's so bad it takes cake for both. Yeah, I'm sorry. The other ones are great compared to that one.
Jeff, what about you? Is there a low point in the first series?
I would say arachnids in the UK. There was a lot of politics going on in that one. The doctor didn't seem to care what happened to the spiders at the end. Wasn't quite even sure what happened to them. Did they just suffocate in the room they were put in? The story didn't make a lot of sense.
After the Runaway Bride, we know how he feels about spiders.
Well, that's true. But yeah, arachnids in the UK.
Troy?
Since you specifically said first season, I would say the low point was even before the series started, the glass ceiling promo. I feel that was it started on a low point, and I don't feel it ever came up from there for me. But then, yeah, it found a new low when it got to the end of the second season.
And the reason I'm asking this question, by the way, before I ask DJ, is that if we're a lot of us are saying that the first series was weak writing, and so I wanted, like, let's be specific. Let's just point stuff out where stuff that didn't make sense. What about you?
Well,
DJ?
then I guess that I have to say then that because of the marketing, I went into it with a bad taste in my mouth. They did the exact opposite of what marketing is supposed to do.
Okay.
So.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. What about you, DJ?
Chibnall becoming showrunner.
So right there with me, basically.
It's funny. I'm the only one that came up with an actual episode.
Yeah.
It's hard to come up with a specific episode because all of them were overpreaching.
Yeah.
All of them was horrible.
Yeah. It wasn't necessarily.
It comes back to the whole thing that we said earlier when I think I don't remember who it was who said that Chibnall wrote some of the worst episodes, and I can't even remember what they were because they're not memorable. The bad ones are not memorable. So I'm having a hard time remembering the first season episodes and going, oh, this one was the worst. No, that one was the worst.
Let me say, a lot of people have had this problem talking about Discovery, for example, because usually people go back and rewatch stuff, and some people were so turned off that they didn't want to rewatch it.
Hey, I forced myself to rewatch these last two seasons.
You poor thing.
Yeah, DJ did that actually.
No, that's impressive. I'm still thinking, just for me, the low points were just the preachiness. It's just because it all stems from that. If you come in with an agenda, you are going to be tied to that. You are going to be tethered to it. You cannot break away from it. And that is predestined. You're predestined to end up at a point. And that's just not how most stories are written.
What about
the showrunner's fault?
I would rather watch Galactica 80 over and over before I'd sit down
No.
I will defend things like Battlestar Galactica 80, the Star Wars Holiday Special, some really, really bad stuff.
Oh, no. Just not the Star Wars Holiday Special. I draw a line.
No.
Katie, the Holiday Special is better than The Last Jedi.
Hear me out. Because of the baggage I bring. Okay? I was a kid when I saw these things. And so I have all those associated memories and fifis that go with it that I cannot share with you. You cannot recapture. I can only share a story with you about how much I loved it. And if you had never seen the Holiday Special, just to hear me talk about it, you'd be like, oh, I really want to see that. And then I would have to say, no, I won't do that to you. Yeah. Just, you're better off just with the imagination of what I just shared with you.
DJ, let me ask you this. Any comments about, because you just rewatched both seasons. Any on Peggy's comment? Any comment on the Witchfinders and the Demons of Punjab?
Demons of Punjab, that was the second episode where they had to focus in on nothing but racism.
Imperialism. Yeah.
Well, imperialism and racism, both. Because you did have the sect, the Muslims against
the Hindus.
So that was all there. It wasn't just imperialism in that episode.
True.
They were also pointing out the fact that you had Pakistanis against Indians.
Yep.
Yeah.
But that episode I found to be informative in some ways. It may not have been entirely accurate, but I didn't know a whole lot about that. And so I went and looked up information on it. And that goes back to Doctor Who's history, where it was supposed to be educational. So in a way, I like that.
I agree with you 100%. And my gut instinct, whenever I see a historically set episode, is to get excited about that. Unfortunately, as someone who takes history so seriously, Professor Geek would say too seriously, I get really bothered by the liberties that Doctor Who has almost always taken with history. If you want to teach history, get the history right first, and then inspire people to look into it more and so forth. And I like that. I like the idea when Doctor Who has done it right. They've done it very right, where the history is accurate and the Doctor's role in it is very Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead kind of a concept. This was going on off the history book pages behind the scenes, and it could work. I don't like when they rewrite history just for the sake of, well, let's call it what it is, preaching, which is what they did with Witchfinder, and they did it with the other one. I forgot the name of the episode. That's how memorable it was to me.
Well,
Demons of the Punjab.
Yeah, thank you.
With me, Doctor Who is a new fandom that I've added on. I started out with Star Trek, then I moved on to Quantum Leap. And so moving on to another time travel show from Quantum Leap is my first dealings with time travel. I was really surprised that they actually even went to these historical events. Like for Pompeii, I'm just like, oh, how are you going to do a time travel show without screwing this up? Yeah. And that was one of the things with the end of Quantum Leap is they started to go into Marilyn Monroe and they went into Elvis's history and stuff. JFK. Oh, anyway.
That was a great one. Oh, that was a great one. Great couple episodes, actually.
There was, yeah. But it's like with Doctor Who, I wish they would bring in more of that history stuff. With like the Agatha Christie episode. I had so much fun with that one because I had never even, yes, I know I'm uncultured. I'd never heard of Agatha Christie, at least not to the point where I remembered. And so now I'm going back and looking at these things. I wish that Doctor Who would go more into these not nitty-gritty historical things, but some of the lesser known, or focus on a few more things.
Speaking of history that they should be going into, I wish. Okay, so we just talked about the idea of them going on hiatus, okay, and changing showrunners and going into waiting a little while, coming back. What if instead what they did in going into hiatus was they started remaking the lost episodes? What if they were to remake Marco Polo? That was a first Doctor. What's the name of the gentleman who just recently reprised the role of the first Doctor?
The guy. Harry Potter dude.
Yeah, Harry Potter dude, exactly. and Game of Thrones, but yeah, I mean, bring him back as his name. Bring him back as the first Doctor and recreate that really ingenious arc of Marco Polo. Doesn't have to be connected to anything else. It's just boom, remaking something that we have lost.
Yeah, because it's already there. Well, kind of. It's like it was established.
Yep.
They should do it right now while they can. Get Paul McGann back. Let him have a season or two and explain what went on during the Time War while he was hiding out trying to avoid it all.
Unfortunately, I think that they focus on those stories are more for the expanded universe, the Big Finish audios and the comic books and stuff. I agree with you, but I think that's how they would address those things. Heck, speaking of, what was it, Night of the Doctor? We were just talking about Paul McGann. I love the fact they basically indirectly canonized all of his Big Finish audios.
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Yep. Yeah, me too.
They did. That was great.
I mean, you see that and you just go, I just get chills thinking about it,
Anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know what I missed about Doctor Who that they stopped doing up until even Capaldi, they kind of did it, but I don't think they did it with Whittaker yet, was always the fact that the Doctor Who, what caught me is they kept doing things in the future, in the past,
Yes,
and knowing like the death of the Doctor, Bad Wolf, Capaldi fighting at the Time Lords. And that kept you watching, and because that's what Doctor Who is. He goes back in time. So where's the whole did something in the future that shows up in the past that we don't realize until the end kind of story? Like when Matt Smith died on the beach. That was like one of the best episodes of Who ever.
Yeah.
It's like you didn't know how he got out of that. Like, how do you get out of your own death? A fixed time and point. A Bad Wolf was another good example. I'm trying to think of the other one, but I can't think right now. Or even a Tenet kind of did the same thing. What was it? Like when he first met the companion, and then, but you saw him in the beginning, but you didn't know that. You thought that was him, but it was really the future him that went back.
With Martha.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah. He was like, yeah, I'll do something right now. And then you realized what he just did. He was like, oh,
What
the
That
talk
was
trick.
brilliant.
kind of a little tangent, but what I wish I could see more of in Doctor Who, they have this tendency of having these great 1 season or 2 season story arcs, and then they're never mentioned again. What would be absolutely brilliant would be to just have the Doctor land the TARDIS somewhere, get out, and as they're going on to whatever their mission is, in the background on a billboard or some graffiti or something, just to see Bad Wolf. Just throw it in there, because that is supposed to be throughout time, that Bad Wolf arc. It should still be there somewhere, you know?
Or
there was two more. There was two more. Clara was one of them, because we didn't know that Clara went back when she went through the. So that first Clara was a different Clara than the one that we met, and we didn't realize that until the end.
Very true.
River Song as well.
River Song.
They've kind of done it a little bit with River.
She rocked the library,
and the fact
that was.
They are missing a huge opportunity by not bringing her back with Jodie.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Huge.
Oh, could you see that team up? Oh my gosh, I didn't even know I needed that until now.
You're
But
welcome.
the problem with the whole River Song deal.
Problem?
Yes. She knew all his incarnations except for Capaldi. What was her last?
Because he was the last one that she doesn't meet until.
And she met Capaldi right when she knew that she was going to go and die in the library.
Of course, she hadn't met Tennant until that episode.
Library. Yeah.
That's true.
She didn't recognize him, so that means she hadn't seen him before. And that's when you start drawing in all of this.
There's a way around it. I think there's got to be a way around it.
Well, there isn't, because I mean there is. You're absolutely right. It's already there, because she inferred that the Doctor was female at one point. Again, they had set it up in advance, so she already met a female Doctor. Now, we took it as she could have been joking, she could have been lying, but what if she wasn't?
Yeah, but when she met Capaldi, she had all the pictures of all the doctors she knew.
She did, yes.
So there were some other doctors on the next page that we didn't see.
And when she met Capaldi, she knew that was going to be her last night with him as the Doctor, period, because she knew she was going to die at the library.
Well, she didn't know that specifically, but she knew that this was the last or second to the last. Yeah. Yep.
In which she's not dead, actually, still, I believe.
Yeah. That's how they could get around it. Oh, the Doctor could go back to the library and do some sort of magic something. Like put her into one of those the thing what the Doctor did on the beach. Have one of those mechanical things, download her consciousness. There's ways around this.
That's select that.
Put her in a android body.
I also have subconsciously just been
Picard.
That's what I was
twirling
thinking.
her.
Like they did with Picard.
Body.
There are so many storylines that are not being addressed that we all want to see. We all want to know what happened to Jenny. We all want to know what happened to Romano. We all want to know what happened to Susan. You know,
Maybe that'll be the episode we all write together. We'll figure out what happened to Jenny.
I felt bad for Bill. I
Yeah.
loved Bill. Bill was great. Bill Potts.
No, my favorite character was Martha.
Martha.
Really?
Martha was
Is that DJ?
it still is an underrated character.
Martha Jones was one of the best companions the Doctor has had.
She was
What I
good.
like to go back to is the episode 42, when the Doctor's going through, the sun is literally taking over him. He's so scared that he's going to like hurt someone. If you take any other companion and put them in that situation, I don't think that episode would have worked.
true.
Like if you had Rose in that episode.
My favorite had always been, and I always used to say Sarah Jane.
Yeah.
In fact, my wife is over there saying Sarah Jane. And that, I mean, man, you talk about your female representation. She was the feminist voice at the time. She made specific references to, they now call it toxic masculinity. Back then it was what was the term that they used? Male chauvinism. But
that was a phrase.
Yes. I'm gonna have to teach you some history there. But yeah,
Shows you how little, how young I am.
Yeah, we'll help you out there. We got to get you watching some Third Doctor and Fourth Doctor episodes. But
by the way, kudos to Katie, who not too long ago just binged all of MASH. Believe it or not.
Wow.
Every single episode.
Because suicide is painless. Oh, sorry, don't want to get you bumped. That's copyright. But I have to say that since that time, my new current favorite is Wilfred. Wilfred Mott.
I love Wilfred.
Love Wilf.
Yeah.
Great companion.
That he became a meme, that whole where he's, at his granddaughter's wedding and he's crying. I just that meme, I use it over and over and over again because
I think my favorite Wilfred moment has to be when when the master's like, "Oh, your dad's kicking up a fuss again." He's like, "I'd be proud if I was." That is just the most.
And then for the Doctor to say, "And I'd be proud if you were my dad too."
Yes, and it's like it wasn't immediately after. It's one of those things that comes up later in the episode, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, he's been thinking about that since that happened," and it's just one of the most, in my opinion, the most pure Doctor Who things to ever happen.
I cannot watch that episode without just bursting into tears.
Yeah.
I don't think that, and yes, I think everybody, I don't want to go and all of that. Yes, tear jerky. No one wanted to see Tennant go, but Wilfred is what really put it over the top.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He was how all of us in the back.
Yes.
Wilfred proved that the Doctor would not let somebody else sacrifice themselves for him.
Mm-hmm. And that
poorly lacked with Jodie this season.
Exactly. Therein is the problem, because after you have that interchange with Wilfred, throughout that 2-story arc, and then you go to the Doctor not knowing what to say to Graham about his cancer. It's like, really?
Yeah, that was a bad scene. That was poorly written. That was just
terrible writing. That's just forgetting everything that the Doctor is all about. And that's what Jodie has to work with. That's that's the millstone around her neck.
Yeah. Now I actually have an interesting, if no one minds me changing it slightly, with the Doctor getting new companions is always a thing. Could you see, because there's been two main things that people have been talking about that I've been hearing, is having a teenager or a very young child become a companion, or have an older person like Wilfred come back and be a companion.
I'd say
that brings up a different dynamic.
The actor playing Wilfred's probably just a tad bit too old now.
Maybe.
Yeah. He is. He's in his 90s.
Love him.
Especially if you take in consideration he was in one of Peter Cushing's Doctor Who movies too.
And he was also
Yes.
up to be the doctor at one point.
Oh yes.
That's
Wouldn't
true.
Wouldn't
I
that
didn't know that.
Yep.
Yep.
But I love that idea, Katie, because it takes us back to that first doctor. Originally, his first companion was his granddaughter. And they tried to keep that formula for the longest time. The older doctor with the younger companion. And then over time, they did try to change that up. What we haven't had much is just the one-on-one young
Yes.
appearing doctor and older companion. We haven't really seen that a lot. And I think that would be an interesting dynamic to explore. But I'm not sure how that would work for a whole season. It might be great. I don't know. But we need fewer companions. One or two, I think is.
Yeah, I feel like you're diluting it when you add more.
Yeah. And there's.
I just want to.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Troy. I just want to say that I will accept a female doctor as long as the casting goes along these lines right here.
Yes. There you go.
You're gonna make me blush.
Forget Whitaker. Let's get Niccolo in there.
Gotta have good.
I
Oh,
agree
you
with
guys
you.
are so kind. Oh,
We can't, it's got to be a different. We can't have Katie running around like Mork from Mork.
Yeah.
No, a lot of
She doesn't know what that
thing
is.
does
Dude.
come off.
I
very
do.
Robin
Dude,
Hood.
I know
I'm just
Mork and
kidding, I'm
Mindy.
kidding.
I'm an old soul, trust me. No, but one thing that a lot of people are doing is putting together their own Doctor Who costume during the coronavirus thing. So I might just put together my own Doctor costume and be like, here's my pitch, tweet it at the BBC, because apparently now they know who I am.
Well, and
They
there's
do
some,
know who you are.
there is something to be said for a change in appearance for the same Doctor. We saw it with Colin Baker. That costume of his was ridiculous because it was the era that he came from. But then they changed his appearance in the books, and it was more logical and reasonable, Same
They did
thing.
that with the Seventh Doctor as well.
I'm not English enough.
Exactly.
There you go. Let's hear that. Let's hear that accent, Katie.
I'm not English enough. I can do Scottish too. I am half Scottish.
And the Doctor's been Scottish, so it works.
There we go. I can be the new Who.
I would be all for that.
I'd have to work on my English accent.
All right, but if she gets to be the Doctor, then I get to be the Master.
Oh,
I think you'd be
I'm
great,
good with that.
Master DJ.
I'm good with that. You can have my backdrop.
I think even DJ would be okay if Katie was cast.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that is a high compliment there. Oh, I love it.
Do you guys remember the Almost People episode?
Mhm.
Where the doctor, there was a second doctor made from the goo. And he was like, you think you can survive this? Maybe. Like, what are they going to do with him? Is he coming back? I mean, that would be an awesome, at least an episode, make an episode out of it or something. What happened to him?
That's very interesting. That's what I mean. There's so many great storylines that they haven't touched on. They're going into this Chibnall era. They wanted nothing to do with previous storylines. And then this past season, they were like, okay, let's bring back old storylines. Let's bring back the guest shots. Let's bring back the old villains because we're losing people.
And I wanted to say too,
bring back the
and I think it helped boost. I think it helped boost the stories. I think they were better in this last series.
And I think rather than, because a lot of people think of it as, oh, they realize that they screwed up, they need to like pull at these old people to get things back into action. Like, I think the way I look at it is, okay, they realize their new formula didn't work. They're going back to what they'd originally done. Rather than a desperation play, they're just like, okay, we did a bad thing, and they're going back to what happened.
My concern, and this is the pessimist coming out again, but someone else in the stream mentioned this earlier. If they did that, that would be tantamount to admitting they were wrong or admitting defeat, and I don't think they can do that.
I don't care as long as they fix it.
I agree. But I don't
care.
think it's I don't think it's realistic to expect.
And
if they're listening, don't let them stop you.
I partially blame the online fan reaction that now
Can you
because
expand
of the fighting. Yeah, because of the fighting between all the showrunner and everything that's going on with New Who, with Jodie's show, the animosity and the words that have been exchanged between the fans and the people who are running it. I feel like if anyone admits defeat, the other one will completely engulf them and be like, I told you so, I told you so. Like, that's not how we should be as a society, in my opinion.
I
when
agree
people
with
admit
you.
that they're wrong, you shouldn't jump down their throat and reinforce that. Just let them know that, oh yeah, you knew you were wrong. Okay, let's go on.
Yeah, I agree with you, but you expect the showrunners, the writers, the IP holders to be the adults in this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you expect them to, what they should be doing is going, okay, these people online, these vocal people online that are being very mean and spirited. Okay, that's wrong. That whatever, but they are expressing something that other people agree with, other fans. We should still pay attention to that. See, I feel like for years, companies that have lost touch with their customers have spent millions of dollars on test markets and studies and surveys to find out what people want. We now live in an era where you're getting that feedback for free. Take advantage of it. And it seems like they're purposely doing the opposite. Don't give the fans what they want, because that's admitting defeat. Fine, then you lose fans. You know?
They're going to double down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say, but they're going to double down, and they're going to try to pull in some of the favorites from the past, probably Tenet next season at some point. Just
I wouldn't even be mad if they did that.
Just to try to get some sort of a boost, but it's not going to work because the writing and the ones in charge are going to continue down this path they're on because they don't want to admit they're wrong.
PJ, you got to promise me that you're going to give Katie the last word today, because I want to go out on a positive note.
Aww.
Because it's so easy to get depressed when we talk about this stuff. Yes, we're being realistic, but sometimes it helps to at least pretend to be optimistic.
LDG,
I live in optimistic bliss.
LDG, can you just do me a favor? Could you freeze your background? Because we have we have just a few people in the audience who can't watch. They can't watch that. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
And by the way, I wanted to patch up some of the when you guys were talking about the new doctor that came in and how she had a phone booth when it was predated. If you remember the doctor's wife, that the TARDIS actually kept desktops and knew things ahead of time. So maybe it's possible that the TARDIS did that on purpose and camouflaged into the box on purpose, because the TARDIS knows she was the box. The TARDIS knows desktops that were before the 11th Doctor.
That is, again, I think a brilliant fan theory that, if we were to accept it, would be giving way too much credit to the writers. I was saying before saying before you came on that unfortunately the fan theories are so much better than what we're actually getting from the writers that it's disheartening to hear that kind of stuff, because what we're going to get is going to be so much.
That's kind of a stretch too, because we already know the TARDIS is basically psychic linked with any of the doctors. Mm-hmm. So as soon as he touched it, she would have got the psychic read off of him anyway, and that's why it changed.
Well, and isn't it in the Doctor's wife? It's kind of like the past, present, and future for the TARDIS. It's all just jumbled together, and so you could the TARDIS could feasibly know, oh well, I'm going to be a police box, and that'll be familiar, so might as well. They have that foreknowledge. Another
huge tearjerker. I just wanted to say hello.
So
yes, I know there's more than just 3 TARDISes. I was looking at the one comment. There was more than 3 TARDISes out there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
You had 2 Dr. TARDISes. You had the Master TARDIS. You have the TARDIS that's running around somewhere with Clara.
Right.
There's
Clara
probably more.
Venus, right.
Right.
You had the planet of dead TARDISes.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
That's true.
And then you have the official / unofficial cut scene at the end of time, or no?
right.
Yeah, no, with Rose
Captain
and
Jack's TARDIS that he's growing.
well, there you go. You have that and the piece of TARDIS coral that
Yep.
10 gives to Metacrisis and Rose.
Yep.
It's like there's so much more.
Well, and a lot of people bring up the Metacrisis Doctor and Rose. And again, I think that's the kind of thing that unless we get a one-off that touches them again, that's the kind of thing that they need to develop in audio or in books or something.
In audio
I'd
would
love
be
to see-
brilliant.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, that would be terrific. Big Finish.
Just wanna
Get
know
on
what
it.
happened. Yes.
And with the Metacrisis Doctor, we only have speculation that there was Time Lords in that.
Well, and now we have the. Did you guys see the big announcement that they're doing a new Doctor Who thing with 10 and the Time Lord get up and everything? What was it? I'm going to try and find the link.
Yeah.
The what is it?
Supposed to have
Katie? What do
the
you-
8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
And that was another thing that ticked me off to no end was Gallifrey falls no more, and they turned
Until it
around.
does. Exactly.
Yeah.
Another slap in the face to continuity. I mean, that just takes that whole ending with Tom Baker and just,
All right, let me-
keep clean
Yeah,
language
Time
here.
Lord Victorious. That's what it is. Doctor Who Time Lord
That's it.
Victorious.
Do you have a link, Katie?
Oh, I'm trying.
But Troy,
I
you know,
have it.
time can be rewritten.
Let's hope. That's what I've the one strand, the one thread of optimism that I've kept through all of this has always been the nature of Doctor Who is almost anything can be fixed because of the timey-wiminess of it. So I keep hoping.
I
You know?
want to ask all of you guys. I'm going to start with the LDG. Who is, name your top 3 doctors. I want to ask everybody that question.
Oh,
Who are
wow.
your top 3
9,
doctors?
10, and 11.
Okay.
9, 10, and 11. Love them all.
Jeff?
I love Capaldi too, but I mean, if you have 3.
Wow. I would probably have to say, let's see, 7, 9, and 10.
Okay. Troy?
In no particular order, 1, 8, and 10. And like LDG, I want to give an honorable mention to Capaldi.
Okay, I like that. DJ? Is he asleep?
I'm going to be a little.
Who are your
Tom
top
Baker,
3?
Number 1.
Hmm?
I'm going to go with Paul McGann, number 2, just for the fact because of all the audio books that he's done. They may not be
Yeah.
totally canon, but they were great. And third, I'm going to go with Capaldi, even though the writing was crap for him through most of it. He put his best foot forward into it, and he was a lifelong fan.
Yep.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Yep.
I'm telling you.
You know, if I could change my answer.
I'm okay with it.
Well, you know, I had a little more time to think about it. And I'm going to substitute 2 for 10. And why do I do that? Because Patrick Troughton had this huge weight on his shoulders because he was the first one to come in after a regeneration. And he had to convince the audience that he could play the role, but he was doing it in a different way than William Hartnell did. He had to come in and be his own doctor and convince the audience that he's the same person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Tremendous effort on his part. And he's a great actor.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
You don't even
I'm going
think
to
of it that
substitute.
way.
I'm going to substitute 2 for 10. So 2, 7, and 9.
You know, I don't give 2 enough credit because, right, he was the first one that had to do the regeneration, like make up this "who am I after I regenerate" kind of thing. He set the bar.
Yes.
I didn't even think of it that way. Nice.
And he had the first sonic screwdriver.
Yes, he did.
It wasn't mentioned in the first one at all?
Nope.
Oh, really?
Nope.
No.
Nope. Didn't come up till the second Doctor. And we actually see it turning a screw. It was originally used to turn a screw.
Oh, I forgot to give my honorable mention. John Pertwee. Just for the fact he was the first full-on action doctor.
Action, yes. I was thinking exactly those same words. And he had a car.
Polarity.
He had both cars.
Two cars, that's right.
He had Bessie and he had the Who-mobile.
The Who-mobile, that's right.
That's true.
And Katie's like, what are you people talking about?
What? Sounds like Batman more than who?
Yeah, no, you need some third Doctor in your life. You're really good.
Let's just give a really quick history. At this point, when John Pertwee became Doctor Who, the BBC was trying to limit money on what they could do. So he was basically stuck on Earth because of the Time Lords throughout pretty much his entire regeneration. Everything happened on Earth. So he had to get around. He had a car called Bessie. And he was more of the James Bond type.
Yep.
Kung Fu.
Cool.
All the stuff that you get about the Brigadier, all the stuff that you get about Unit, it all comes from the Pertwee era.
Okay. Yeah, see, I'm still fuzzy with the OG. Like,
and it was
I have seen a few.
And he was the first Doctor in color.
Yes, he was.
Right.
There's a what was it? Who was it? I think it was Moffat today on Twitter. He tweeted an account to follow that colorizes old Doctor Who. And that is really trippy.
So again, going back to the whole fans doing the best work, there are fans out there that have been doing reconstructions and colorizations and you know, what do you call it? High definition updates of original episodes. And they're going, we're doing all this work out of a labor of love. We can't share it because IP, but hey, BBC, if you want it, here you go, you know? And it's like, just do it. Just do it. And really, that's what they did. That's why we have all of the episodes of the original Doctor in audio, because fans literally recorded using audio cassettes. Every single episode, because that's the only way they could keep these things. And now they said, hey, fans, if you have it, you know, we know that technically you're not supposed to do that, but we won't, you know, say anything. Just get it to us, please. You know,
and
do the same thing.
That solves the problem that we had talked about earlier with like paying for royalties and not including other writers because of the stuff. If shows and stuff realize, I think it's going to get to the point where fans will just say, I don't care if I get paid. Just do this
because it's a labor of love. We're doing it anyway. There's got to
be a middle ground.
Yeah,
and if they ever wanted to do real fan service, they could bring back the third Doctor. Yeah, with Sean
Pertwee. Sean Pertwee, yes,
from Gotham. He was.
I've been blown away by his work. But so you have fans out there like the community in Loose Cannon that are literally taking telesnaps and putting them together with these audios. And I've got a video on my channel. It's my most recent video if anyone cares to check it out. I've literally taken all of those reconstructions to make my own DVDs just because I want to have that whole collection. You know, I have all my own boxes. BBC, do this. Why have you not? Jump on this, you know.
That brings up something else.
Oh, go ahead.
You're talking about having all the audio from all the episodes, which is terrific. It's great, and they've done some animations because there are 97 episodes that are missing of the classic run from the first and second Doctors. But did you all see the reconstruction that I believe it was a college did? of Mission to the Unknown. It was one episode. It was the only story from the classic run that was just one episode, and it didn't feature the Doctor or any of the companions. But that was a terrific reconstruction, and they did it in the way that they would have filmed it back in the 60s, and it was just fabulous.
It was brilliant because it's a performing arts school that was doing it.
Yes, that's right.
They were doing it to there's a number of things that they were doing as part of their project. They were reconstructing the way television was done back then. They were the film quality, the editing, and all of that. You had your drama department and so forth, and it's absolutely brilliant. I want to see more of that too. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. Two quick questions.
Once things. Oh, go ahead.
One, I just saw that there was a season 5 of Torchwood 2 years ago.
Was it actually
Aliens Among Us? It's called. This is after Miracle Day, because last time I saw it, I thought Miracle Day was the end of Torchwood, and then
was
I was
that
just
Big Finish?
Okay, so Miracle Day was 2011. This was 2017 to 18. It was 12 episodes. Started with Changes Everything and ended with Herald of the Dawn, directed by Scott Hancock.
I think really finished it Torchwood.
Yeah,
I think that
Changes Everything is an audio story. So yeah, that season.
Oh, so this wasn't TV then?
No.
This isn't canon.
Well,
because this blew my mind. I thought Miracle Day was the end of it, and I thought that was it. They ended on Miracle Day.
Big Finish is kind of that gray area where it can be canon and it can't be canon. It's
in other words,
fan choice.
Choice. Not necessarily. Yes, for fans, it's usually headcanon, but from the BBC standpoint, it's non-canon until it's verified by something. That's why I was saying earlier that it seems that with Night of the Doctor, the Paul McGann Big Finish audio was canonized by, and I might be overstating that because I'm putting too much weight on one line of dialogue, but yeah.
I asked because has it been confirmed, and I've only saw it once and I might have to watch it again, but the Jack Hartness, was there any clues of which Jack Hartness is it? Is it post Miracle Day? Is it post Aliens Among Us, or is it?
I haven't looked into
pre Torchwood?
Yeah, I haven't looked into it, so I don't know. But I
didn't see any hints.
I've heard that fans are thinking of it as a season 5, so I have to assume that canonically it would take place after. But chronologically it would take place after. But I have not experienced it firsthand, so I'm not a good authority for that.
Which would make him having the Doctor's blood. That was the whole point of Miracle Day, right? When he got the transfusion and he can like regenerate without changing faces or anything.
I honestly don't remember.
Jack Harkness just couldn't die because
he couldn't die. That's right.
The whole bad wolf.
Yeah.
Yes.
From Rose.
Mm-hmm. But at the end of that series, he got the Doctor's blood, and something happened at the end of the series because the whole series was he could die. Miracle blood, right? Something happened. There was a virus in the blood, and he could die, and everybody else was living forever.
No, it was the fact that the thing that those one people were doing changed everybody on the planet to the opposite. Since Jack was immortal, he got changed
became immortal,
and everyone else became immortal.
Mm-hmm.
God, you guys are taxing my memory because I haven't seen it since it originally aired.
Tell me about it. But I remember at the last episode, something happened, and I remember him having that regeneration effect coming off of him at the last episode.
There's another perfect example of
Jack's blood. They used Jack's blood in that, whatever they were calling it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a regeneration. It was just kind of focusing everything back into him, making him immortal again, and everybody else became immortal.
I have a question for you guys, because I am pretty much a norm. I'm a normie on Doctor Who. I have to go. I have to go back and watch stuff. But what is the news for the next season? Do we have any news for next season?
You have Captain Jack supposed to be back for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, they've correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw where they've already filmed the Christmas special.
Okay.
But they haven't even confirmed it's going to be a Christmas special.
Well, yeah, the holiday special, the special episode.
Yeah.
But at least
from what I have read, it's supposed to air on Christmas Day. They're going back to Christmas Day.
I think that was another backstep that Chibnall made, was they're going to put it back on Christmas.
Yeah.
Because too many people were upset that it was pushed off till the first of the year, and they wanted it on that holiday again.
Could always do an Easter special.
Are we losing a companion? Bradley Walsh, isn't he leaving after the Christmas special?
I know of 2 companions that are supposed to be gone.
Yeah.
2 of them are supposed to.
The grandfather and the grandson are leaving, and
Brian.
God, I was liking them all, man. I was liking them. I will say, I really did like the companions in the last season of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I started liking them better.
Well, Yaz, I think, was the least developed, and it's good that she's staying and they can develop her character more.
Yeah.
Oh, because that Walsh guy, he reminded me of what was his name? The one you guys were talking about.
Wilfred.
Yeah, Wilfred. He was reminding me of Wilfred, like a younger Wilfred.
Yeah.
Me too.
That was kind
absolutely.
I think that might have been a big part of why I liked him so much.
But,
but I can't say that publicly, because then, of course, he's the white male that, I'm evil for liking him.
Well, and aside from the special, they do have the Time Lord Victorious thing that's coming out. There's like hardly any details on it other than the poster image. But if you guys haven't seen the poster, it gets you excited. Because some people are thinking it brings back Metacrisis Doctor, and there's so much that could be or could not be. Either way, I'm happy.
Just no more Sonic sunglasses, please.
That was kind of weird.
I couldn't take the Sonic sunglasses. I mean, even Capaldi couldn't spin that into gold.
Yeah.
You could change it and make it Sonic 3D glasses. If you really
one thing I did like, though, was Capaldi playing the guitar. I loved the Doctor playing the guitar because it was something that Capaldi actually did, and B, it made me think back to the second Doctor playing the recorder, because it was something that Troughton could do.
Yes.
I loved that.
See, one of the things why I want them to bring back the 3D glasses is because I accidentally bought 50 of them on Amazon. So
there you go.
I don't have anything to do with them.
So accidentally?
I did, yeah. The picture had 4 of them in it. The picture had 4. It was like $3. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a good deal. 4 3D glasses for $3. Fine.
Yeah.
They're literally sitting on top of my Wii games, and they will be there until the end of time.
So, Katie, I need to hook you up with a copy of Dimensions in Time, so you can see the 3D Doctor Who episode.
There we go.
No. I wouldn't really do that to you. It's like the holiday special. I could tell you about all my fond memories of it, but I wouldn't subject you to it.
No, put me in contact with anyone who has a 10th Doctor cosplay, and they'll just get a free 3D pair of glasses.
I can hook you up with that, sure.
I'm working on a 10th.
I know how they can fix Doctor Who.
Oh, yeah?
Uh-oh.
Turn Whittaker into the Valeyard.
There's another thread that we need. We need more. We need to know what happened to that Valeyard. Where is that storyline? That would have been brilliant for them to. That could have woven itself into all of this, last episode timey-wiminess.
But we saw her regenerate from Capaldi. How would that?
Yeah.
Now we also saw the TARDIS throw her out because she didn't like her.
I don't know. They're needed. Missed opportunities, because this is terrible, because the Valeyard wasn't even just something from the old Doctor Who that people have forgotten. It was touched on during the Matt Smith era again, and it was like,
yes,
missed opportunities.
Does anybody
wasn't the only one that right every time the Doctor regenerates, they almost get thrown out of the TARDIS or locked out of the TARDIS for a while, right?
That has been a recurring trope.
They gotta get TARDIS.
Does anybody want to tackle this question from Mortimus?
Oh,
I think for me, just the TARDIS, the interaction with the Doctor and the TARDIS, I'm comfortable with the way it is. The TARDIS is just, it's sexy and it's there, and they rely on each other at the most basic element, like the basic. When everything comes down to it, it's the Doctor and the TARDIS.
That's a dangerous thing to touch on, because it's just like the Weeping Angels. You know, once is really awesome.
Yeah.
You keep going back to that well, and you can ruin it. You know,
you have that with the Borg too in Star Trek. Once you keep using it, they get less and less awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Or even worse, you risk ruining it. You know,
you damage the relationship.
I don't want the TARDIS to be
the Borg good after the initial showing them. Enterprise.
Yeah,
true.
I don't want to risk that the TARDIS ends up becoming, you know, like Zen from Blake 7 or I don't know. Just pick your ship interface. You know, I don't want that.
But see, I'm old enough to remember when the Doctor regenerated. If he wanted to change what the TARDIS looked like, he pushed some buttons and it would reorganize and it would bring up new rooms, not explode and turn to fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Matt Smith definitely had the best interaction.
And there was more than one control room in the TARDIS.
Mm-hmm. Right, the secondary control room.
I'd be afraid that it would get too much like Knight Rider. You get snarky comments back and forth between the Doctor and the TARDIS, like you did with Michael Knight and Kit.
Yeah.
But we have that. We have that already. Like when the Doctor always did something a TARDIS didn't like, he did get lip. You got that, like he didn't want to do it. Like,
but that's not the same.
We got the Doctor's wife. To me, it is the Doctor's wife, where the consciousness of the TARDIS got turned into a female, and you had that whole episode explaining, like, you think you're driving me? No, I'm driving you.
Yeah,
I stole the Doctor.
You go,
I stole you.
I let you go. Yeah, that was canonized.
Yeah, that was great for one story.
Yeah,
but I don't think you can have that all the time.
No. It was more than one story. How many times did the Doctor say she doesn't want to go there? She doesn't want to go there, like trying to break through, like talking to the TARDIS, like it was a person. The episode when he found out the library, where you could have snapped your fingers any time and my doors would have opened.
Yeah,
there was so many little things. The Doctor's wife was the big episode where we finally got to see it, because when they opened up that thing, all you saw was, and remember when they were stuck on the dead planet? You get him, girl, and she killed them and flying all around, and that was awesome. Like, I already believe that.
And then with this garbage, nothing could get through the TARDIS's shields.
Right.
And this past season, we had
everything can. Yeah.
We had the Jejune coming right in through. We had a delivery robot coming right through.
But you had that with the Seventh Doctor as well. Greatest show in the galaxy. You had something come into the TARDIS console room.
But then it meant something. When that happened, it was a big deal, because it wasn't something that happened before. Now it dilutes it. And I think that speaks to the same point. Once being able to have an interface with the TARDIS is awesome and special. If it becomes a regular thing, it's no longer special. We can still have that interaction with the TARDIS the way we always did with the, non-verbal communications, and still being reminded of who the TARDIS is.
One way we could get around things getting in, maybe Jodie's Doctor just forgot to put the shields back up.
My concern, though, is that the read of this is going to be, oh, well, look, the Doctor's gotten weak now.
Yeah, true.
We don't, and that's a problem. That's definitely what we don't want.
Yeah. I think.
But we had Tennant forget to put the shields back up.
That led to one of the best 5 minutes of David Tennant's life, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I remember that one. Nice.
What was it? Time Crash, I think is the title.
Yes.
Was it? Yeah. That was, you can tell he wasn't even acting in that. He wasn't at all.
That was the short story when he was going through the doors to himself and everything.
He even said that last bit it was he
You
was
were my
literally ad-libbing
doctor.
it. You were my doctor, and it was like,
Oh,
this is David Tennant talking to his future
stab you in the
father-in-law.
Yes.
I know. Oh, it's kind of a side tangent. A fan asked him, what's the best gift a fan ever gave you? And someone shouted out, a granddaughter. And that's forever the best answer to David Tennant's family.
Yeah.
So, guys, do you let me ask you each if you have any, closing thoughts before we wrap up. Let me start with LDG, who just joined us a little while ago. Do you have any closing thoughts on our, on what we've been talking about?
I am more optimistic that the one thing I can say is I'm more optimistic that the next season of Whittaker has a better chance of surviving than the next episode of Discovery or Picard.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
If anyone had a shot, it's Whittaker right now. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Jeff?
Continuity is always changed in Doctor Who. It's you go back all the way
Very
to
true.
the second story, the Daleks. You got a different origin for the Daleks in that story than you did in Genesis of the Daleks with the Fourth Doctor. It's going to change. You're going to have different showrunners, and it will change in the future. So if you don't like what you have right now, wait a few series, because you're going to get a new showrunner, you're going to get a new doctor, you're going to get new companions. It's going to change again. Just stick through it, because you're eventually going to find something you like if you don't like what you have now.
So no cancellation? You don't think?
I don't think you're going to get a cancellation, not anytime soon.
Okay. What about you, Troy?
I have very little optimism, and that's why I hope you're sticking with Katie getting the last word, because I want to go out on a happy note. I think that that Jeff is absolutely right. I think that that's true. That if you don't like it, wait. Unfortunately, I think that BBC has waited too long, and they have lost too many fans. By the time they get around to correcting it, we may have already moved on to something else entirely.
I'm thinking there's a lot of people out there thinking the same thing I am, that even if they switch, it could even get worse.
Yep. Could get worse. You're right.
Could get worse. Mr. DJ, what are your thoughts on our discussion?
My thoughts on it probably has one season left to it. They're going to double down.
Yep.
They're going to continue to bleed viewers. And when it comes out, whenever it comes out, I'm going to watch Galactica 80.
Probably right.
With
Go
those
ahead and watch
motorcycles.
it. You can
just
watch
enjoy torture,
Galactica
don't you?
1980. I won't.
I will put up with the space campers over what they've been doing lately.
That's right. Oh my God.
Oh God. Wow. Yeah. That really happened. Galactica 80 really happened. Katie.
Motorcycles.
I
Yep.
did like the motorcycles. I did like the motorcycles.
Very much a product of its time.
Mhm.
Katie, what do you think about our discussion? And I've tried to let you guys just go with the natural flow of the conversation.
Well, you've been fantastic.
Yeah.
You're always fantastic.
Well, partly because I don't feel qualified, even though I have watched Doctor Who, I don't feel qualified to comment on your level, guys. And the other thing is too that I really, it was requested that I stay out of it. So, so Katie, what are your thoughts on our discussion and the future of Doctor Who for the next, few seasons?
Well, I think if the last 2 hours and 33 minutes and 37 seconds have taught us anything, it's that anyone of any view from Doctor Who can get together and have a completely friendly conversation, whether you agree, disagree, love, or absolutely hate something. And I think that shows the brightest spot for Doctor Who. whether you think it'll get canceled or it'll get renewed or new showrunners or anything, you're still talking about Who. So it's not going to go away anytime soon. Personally, I'm on the boat of, you know what, we're coming up on the third inning. In this game, you only have 3 innings usually with a doctor.
Yeah.
You can get a different showrunner, you can get a different doctor. Whether it'll be better or worse is a gamble we have to deal with. But you know what? If there's any sense in the world, people will listen to the fans and it'll change and it'll turn around. But honestly, all in all, I think it just shows that we all like Doctor Who. And the fact that there's so much discussion about it and people talk about good things and bad things, it shows that it's built up a base of people that care so much about it. In many cases, more than most things in the real world. So long story short, I don't think Doctor Who's going to go anywhere. And even if it goes on a break, could be 5 years, could be 20 years, it'll still come back.
I don't know if it's 20 years. I'll probably be dead by then, so I won't know.
Hope not.
We'll just do what they did with River, pop you in a computer, and we'll bring it back.
Right.
What about, let me ask this question. Does that, just really quick to all of you, Chibnall, will he be here next year?
Unfortunately.
God, I hope not.
Like
I
I
hope
said,
not.
You guys don't believe me, but Whitaker and Chibnall are hooked at the hip.
You're
They
right. DJ's
stated-
right.
They both stated they will not be there if one goes.
I think we also have to consider, irrespective of our opinions, we're also talking about contracts too. I think they're contracted. So they have to.
Thank you.
I think
Yeah.
yeah.
They'll be there for Series 13. I don't think they'll be there for Series 14. I think you'll get a change.
I think they'll bring in a
Agreed.
different kind of person. And hopefully that person is a diehard fan at heart and also a very good storyteller. Because you can be one, you can be the other, but when you mix them both together, that's how you're going to get good Who.
Well, you know, the doctor said you could always see a face from the past. Maybe Capaldi will be back.
Could you imagine Capaldi being showrunner?
That would be
Oh
awesome.
my God! Wouldn't that
Ooh.
be brilliant?
That's
That'd
a
be great.
great idea.
That would
There's
be
a
great.
little optimism for everyone.
Thank you, Katie.
Get back on track.
There you go.
Oh, that'd be
I
brilliant.
do want to ask one more. There's one question I did want to ask you guys, and I didn't ask the possibility. All right, basically, the BBC has to respond. You know, they have to react in some way. Do you think we will see any innovation in strategy of marketing or strategy, or are they going to come up with something crazy to try to promote Doctor Who this year?
Nope.
I think they
I think they
could.
already did
How so, Jeff?
with this audio comic book books thing that they're doing. Time Lord Victorious.
Uh-huh.
That's their big thing. They just announced that this week, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was this week.
My
think-
prediction is they're going to put Katie in charge of their PR.
I
And
really hope so.
it would definitely be a step in the right direction.
On that note, yeah. Well, listen, guys, thank you so much for an awesome debate. Everybody in the chat was loving it, and people have stuck with us the whole time. So
Thank you, chat.
Real
Yeah.
quick, if
Yeah.
you haven't subscribed to Katie's channel, please do so, because in a couple weeks on her channel, we're going to be doing a rewatch of the movie Twister.
Yes.
Oh
You
wow!
guys get to hear
Great movie.
everything, whether
Yes.
Great movie.
just to keep you guys, to let you know how this is going to go, I keep a running list every time I watch Twister of different things I notice. So you are going to have a goal mine, hopefully, and you won't get annoyed with me.
So Saturday the 23rd on her channel.
I got a question for Katie.
Yes.
Any chance you'll review the Sharknado movies?
Ah,
I'm game for it. There's some fun stuff with that.
if you did, I would actually watch those stupid movies.
You haven't seen them?
I've not. I've had no interest, but you could convince me.
Oh, I might
Okay.
get.
Sharknado is good, cheesy fun.
Didn't realize my cat was
I saw that in the background.
Radar. Actually, Radar's birthday is tomorrow, and I have a bunch of presents. I'm Facebook
Aw.
living his birthday party.
Oh, that's cool.
I have nothing else to do.
Really quick, guys. Troy, do you want to plug anything that's going on your channel or with what you're doing?
Well, I mean, if you want to follow me tonight in just about an hour, I'm going to be doing a rewatch on my channel of the movie Memento. Myself, Big Al, my wife Nanette,
cool.
we're doing our rewatch. So yeah, if you want to come check that out.
Great. And I'm putting Troy's channel up in the chat again. DJ, anything you want to plug or?
Tomorrow night, actually, I will be on another YouTuber stream, Hanstars, competing in Name That Tune.
Oh.
To attempt to win. You'd think a DJ would have the upper hand when it comes to
You're gonna jump off.
What the heck?
He's trying to. I have a very precarious setup right here, and he would be falling from like 5 feet.
Awesome. Anything else, DJ?
Well, I'm going to take a break for the rest of the weekend on my own channel, so YouTube won't be pulling me down for bacon. I don't know.
No.
For bacon.
I don't know.
You should just live stream a picture of bacon for 20 minutes. Just
Quantum.
see what happens.
Jeff, anything you want to plug?
Oh, sure. If you're interested in podcasting, I work for a free podcasting service where you can get your own account, get your own show going, record as much as you want. It's all free. It's called talkshoe.com. I do a show every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time where you can come on and ask questions about the service, or if you having issues with it, you can come on and ask questions there as well. We'll try to get you good information. So it's called ID 77, TalkShoe Support Live.
I'm putting it in here. And actually, Jeff, that's pretty interesting. I think a lot of people should check that out.
Yeah.
So here it is. And LDG, anything you want to say about your channel coming up?
Absolutely, guys. Online help desk, anything computer related, websites. You need any questions, hit me up. Check out my channel, guys. Subscribe. It's an open door policy. Early streams in the morning, afternoon. Have anything? Just popping by and I'll help you out.
Yeah, you have helped a lot of people out, right? In our community. That's right. And Katie, what about you? What do you got coming up?
Well, right now, just, working with a bunch of other people. I've got upcoming things with Troy. I have the Women Power Wednesdays. I did just release a fandom forecast for Good Omens, the poster over there. Right. I cried last night because within the span of 30 seconds, Michael Sheen and Neil Gaiman saw my tweet. And I was just like, nice. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, it was really fun. And tornado season looks like it's going to be picking up the end of May up here in the high plains. So you guys might end up getting to come storm chasing with me. Who knows? Awesome. So their computer models are notoriously bad, but there's one that had storms like every single day of the week for 10 days straight. And I will be dead at the end of it, but I will love every second of it.
Nice. Wow. And is just one question. Is there a Doctor Who forecast coming out ever?
Yo, there absolutely is. It was actually, that was the second forecast I thought of. It's just a matter of actually getting the 10th Doctor's costume, because there are many things involved with that. It will go down in history as my best fandom forecast.
Looking forward.
Oh wow. Are you gonna walk out of a TARDIS at the beginning?
Ooh, well, maybe. There's so much going on in it. You guys will have your minds blown.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much to all of you, and thank you to Max World, Peggy. Peggy, we missed you today. You were in the chat. I try to put up as many comments of yours as you can, but hopefully next time you'll be able to be on the panel. Resolute, thank you, Mr. Miles, Epic Beard, JP's, Mr. Miles, Tiki of Doom, Bird of Prey, Luis Sparrow, Ensign Ricky, everybody who's been in here, Life with Matthew, Fordian, everybody who's been in here. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe. We had an awesome debate. Thank you to everybody. And many blessings to everybody. Have a great night, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
And sub to everybody's channel, guys. Sub to all these people's
Yes.
channel. That was a great
And thank
channel
you,
we had.
PJ. Thank you, PJ.
Yes, thank you, PJ.
Thank you, sir.